go a little earlier, like, you don't have to start as soon as we start. That allow people to kind of get into the room too if they want to do that. Whatever. Yep. You reading, bro? You got it. Something coming?
Yeah, I was trying to
Here.
scripture.
Oh yeah. You good. There we go. I see us. Mic check. Mic check. Oh, y'all hear me too. All right, so we're gonna share. We'll be able to do that for a little while. Yeah. And I'm loud. I'm real loud. So we're gonna wake up the dead. All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna stand face the room. Sisters, make sure you got your heads covered. Brothers, make sure your heads are uncovered, for you are in the image of God. Hey, reading today, bro.
Our Father,
Our Father,
who art in heaven,
which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done
thy will be done
in earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day
Give us this day
our daily bread.
our daily bread,
And forgive us our debts
and forgive us our debts
as we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
For thine is the kingdom,
For thine is the kingdom,
the power, and the glory,
the power, and the glory,
forever and ever.
forever, ever. In Jesus'
Things
name.
we pray in Jesus' name.
In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Scripture reading is going to come from Psalms. Psalm 72. Give the king thy judgment, O God, and thy righteousness unto the king's son. He shall judge thy people with righteousness, and thy poor with judgment. The mountains shall bring peace to the people, and the little hills by righteousness. He shall judge the poor of the people. He shall save the children of the needy, and shall break in pieces the oppressor. They shall fear thee as long as the sun and the moon endure. Throughout all generations, he shall come down like rain upon the mount grass, as showers that water the earth. In his day shall the righteous flourish, and abundance of peace as long as the moon endureth. He shall have dominion also from sea to sea, and from the rivers unto the ends of the earth. They that dwell in the wilderness shall bow before him, and his enemies shall lick the dust. That was Psalms 72, verses 1 to 9. May the Lord add a blessing to the hearing and reading of his word. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Peace to everybody that's here in Jesus' name. Now, Sean, after the lesson, can you show him maybe how to use the camera microphone too? In addition to that, he should be able to do both, right? Yeah, yeah. But you can do that after the lesson. Well, it's always a pleasure to stand before you, present the gospel here at Israel, the Church of Jesus, where we are here to learn and study the Word of God. So today our subject is the wilderness, the place of safety during the tribulation, the purging after Jesus returns. So here's the thing. There are a lot of different theories on, guess I'll borrow this. There are a lot of different on what happens when the Lord come back. Some people, like, if you ever watch the movies or have you ever heard of what's it called? Yeah, Left Behind. Thank you. The Left Behind series, which I watch them and they're pretty good, but they are inaccurate on something. And inaccuracy is they have you flying in the airplane, and then all of a sudden your pilot gets raptured off while the world goes through great tribulation. Your pilot is up in heaven, chilling with God. And then this great tribulation may last 3.5 years, and then with you 3.5 years without you, or some of them have you in a 7-year great tribulation. A lot of Bibles, for those of us that spend a lot of money on our Bibles, sometimes they even have theories in the back of your Bible, and they have post-millennium, pre-millennium, all these different theories on what's going to happen when they come back. The reality is God has already shown you what happens when he comes back. And that's what we're going to learn today. So we're coming out of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And one of the things that we may or may not have really discussed, or that you may or may not have seen, was that, the Lord had those plagues go through Egypt, and the majority of them did not touch Israel. The majority of them, Israel was in the land of Goshen, and those plagues didn't bother Israel at all. Furthermore, we see that when the Lord delivered Israel, then what did he do? He brought them out of the wilderness and he made a covenant with them. Both of those things are to be duplicated again. So you say, duplicated how, when, where? So when the Lord returns, before he returns, he's going to bring chaos to this world. And when he brings that chaos to this world, back in the days of Egypt, we were in the land of Goshen. But when the Lord comes back, he would take us before he comes back, he would take us to the wilderness. And we'll look at that and we're going to read that and understand, and that's going to be for 3.5 years. Then the Lord will, at the end of the wilderness, after the end of 3.5 years, at the end of the Great Tribulation, then the Lord will return. We're going to see that. And then upon his return, he will bring us to the wilderness again. And so the reality is we will be in the wilderness. Well, hopefully not us, but there will be a play in the wilderness. That means God and will use the wilderness 3.5 years before he returns, and the 3.5 years after he returns. And so we're going to get a good understanding of this, because when I came into the word, I was under the misconception that when you go to the wilderness, this is where the Lord will purge out the rebels during the Great Tribulation. And we're going to get more clarity on that, because that's not how it works. And we're going to see it very clearly on what happens when the Lord comes back and what the wilderness is for and all that. Okay? So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and pick this up at Matthew chapter 24. And we're going to start at verse 3. And you get there, go ahead, read. We're dealing with the coming of the Lord. Matthew 24 and 3. And the wilderness, this chapter is the coming of the Lord. When you get there, go ahead. Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. When you get there, go ahead.
And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciple came unto him privately, saying, Tell us when shall be these things. Tell us when shall these things be.
Go ahead.
And what shall be the signs of thy coming and of the end of the world.
So in this chapter, Matthew chapter 24, these questions will be answered. We will see the sign of the Lord's coming, and we will also see what's the end of the world. But most importantly, we're looking for the sign of his coming. How do we identify that Jesus is returning? All right. Let's keep reading.
And Jesus answered and said to them, Heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
So rule number 1 is you don't want anybody lying to you, tricking you. And how do you know these things? You have to get yourself grounded and rooted in the Word of God. Point blank. You got to put your faith in God. You got to trust God. You can't even trust yourself. A lot of times people get in trust or like you go out there and learn something. And I've seen this happen even in my family. With my brother-in-law. We got in the Word together, and all of a sudden, he began to learn things, and it was like he felt like he was going to get all this information, making it like he did all this. But the Bible said one man plant, another man water, and it's the Lord that gives the increase. So yes, you study to show yourselves approved, absolutely. But you need to make sure that you got God providing you with this level of understanding, and that it's not your own. Okay? At any rate, he's saying, take heed that no man deceive you. For many people gonna come in my name, in the name of Jesus, saying that that he is Christ, and they're gonna be deceiving you. All right, let's skip down to verse 7. When you get there, go ahead.
For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence, and earthquakes in divers places.
So I guess we kind of in the middle of a pestilence now, And we not gonna act like, it's funny because a lot of people be trying to say it's man-made. I'm like, okay, whether it's man-made or not, the death angel ain't man-made. If it's killing people, then God doing it. It's just like, oh, well, we made an atomic bomb. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, you drop the bomb and you kill, 5 million people. Like, that's still God. Believe it or not, that's still God. God orchestrated that day. God orchestrated the minds of the people to be able to prepare whatever this is. You got to look at when you go back into Egypt, even Pharaoh and them had, people with power that they was there. But at the end of the day, all of this was orchestrated by God. These plagues came from the Lord. And what I'm getting at with that, and I was thinking about it on my way here, like, I was like, okay, so they giving out money. They still giving out more money to the poor. They're giving out more money because of this pandemic. So then I was like, why? In my mind, like, why? Why they keep giving us money? So I guess they feel like if they don't give people money, the economy will fail. Well, according to the Bible, we just have to begin. So what happens when this, we get past this year or so, you know what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, 3 more years from now, it's another one. They're going to do all this again. Or I guess we're going to be more prepared. But how do we know we're going to be more prepared? What if the next one ain't, as kind as the coronavirus? And it really do come in. The Bible is saying that you're going to have famines and pestilence and earthquakes in different places as he's returning. So that means that this is not the end of it. This is really the beginning. But go ahead.
All these are the beginning of sorrows.
Right, and that's what it's telling us. All this is the beginning of sorrow. Go ahead.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and he shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
Right, so he's saying, and also in addition to, they're gonna be like, when we get down to it, this is gonna be a matter of life and death. People gonna be trying to kill you over this. Okay, and go ahead, keep reading.
And then shall men be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
And that's another thing. And see, a lot of times we don't even believe, we looking at that like that's going to be, it's funny because we think that the betrayal and the hate and stuff is going to come from like the outside looking in. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, you should see now. You should see now. That's not the case. It's going to be internal. It's going to be him saying, oh, we should be doing this. And she's saying, oh, we should be going over there. And I'm saying we should. And it's going to be like, it's not going to just, see, we always look at first of all, Jesus talking to his disciples. You know what I'm saying? Like, we always looking at, oh, that's not going to be me. But I'm just telling you, when he say, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and shall be hated of all nations, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. I mean, it's just period. Israel is Israel. That's the thing that we don't understand. That we try to classify us being Israelites as if we different from the Israelites around the corner from your house. We all Israel. We're all a nation to God. It's not like, oh, well, we here, so we the peculiar people. You know what I'm saying? But the rest of them that's outside doing whatever, they ain't a part of the nation. Nah, we just all a part of the nation. All right? But go ahead, keep reading.
And many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many.
Uh-huh.
And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold.
Go ahead.
But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved.
So what he's telling you is you got to make it to the end. There's no magic pill to get you out of here. We're not going to be on Mars. See, I like watching them type of shows because I realize that if he's saying we could be at Mars in the year 2029, then I'm saying the Lord will probably be back there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't finna escape Jesus coming back. It ain't like you going to be up there and like you chilling in your Mars beach house and watching on your satellite dish the bloodshed and the wrath that's happening on this planet. Because that's what we're going to look at today. This planet is going to be overturned. That's what a lot of people don't understand. What we know as society, what we know as normalcy in our world will no longer exist once the Lord returns. And that's big. When I say that's big, that's going to be big. That's going to be dramatic. Okay? What verse are we at?
14.
All right, go ahead.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
So notice here too how he say, in this gospel of the kingdom got to be preached. Like this gospel that Jesus is coming to set up a kingdom on earth. This is the gospel, and it has to be preached. Because right now, nobody's buying that. Like nobody's sitting here like, okay, let's prepare Jerusalem for the Lord to return. You know what I mean? Like nobody's even on that. Like you know, if we knew, let's say our government, you know, let's say the president had went off to Pluto or something. You know, something weird like that. It could come back. You know, he had been gone for a minute or whatever. He can come back. We'll be setting the place up, making sure everything is in order for the president to come back to his land. Whereas when Jesus come back to earth, it's going to be contrary to that. Nobody's preparing for this. All right, what verse?
15.
Go ahead.
When he therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand.
Couple of things. Number one, it says the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Number two, it says he's going to stand in the holy place. So these are things that we need to learn and understand. Somebody asked me this week, ask a question to the world, I guess, who is Edom? So my question was, who is Edom? Who is Esau? Where is he now? Who is he? And somebody said, this ain't got nothing to do with salvation. Why you asking that? I'm like, nah, you wrong. It do got something to do with salvation. Because there are people that want to try to tell you that we have misinformed information. And so, therefore, what I was trying to show in that is that, man, when the Lord come back, the first person he going to deal with is Edom. And he going to deal with them from right there where they are. We're going to see it even in the scriptures how he deal with Edom and how he deal with another nation the same way he deal with Edom. And the question is, where are they? You know what I'm saying? Because Edom has stolen the Holy Land. And the book is telling us that the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet when he stand in the Holy Land. Then what happens after that takes place, bro?
Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains.
So then we need to know where the Holy Land is. We need to know when this abomination of desolation stands in there. Because when that happens, we have instructions now. We got stuff we're supposed to do. When this abomination of desolation is the Antichrist. When he make his move, this is the end of it all. This is the last 3.5 years as we're going to learn. This is the Great Tribulation. And man believes there's something coming because we steady talking about Mark of the Beast still to this day. We steady talking about Antichrist, even though they done made it to be Ronald Reagan, they done made it to be George Bush or Donald Hussein. It'll be everybody but who it need to be. You know what I'm saying? But all in all, though, we need to know and understand these things. All right? So, anyway, keep reading. Verse what, 18?
17.
17, go ahead.
Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes.
Go ahead.
And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days.
What else?
But pray he that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day.
So it's funny too because as we look at it, we're in the end now, so your mind should be kind of projected toward the end. And notice what it says: pray that your flight don't be on the Sabbath day. But the world will try to tell you that the Sabbath day is Sunday. That's what they'll try to tell you. But God ain't never changed that. Like, where did you see that in the Bible that the Sabbath from the Ten Commandments changed to some other direction? You know, like that, and it did. It never did. Okay? So the seventh day of the week is the Sabbath, and you need to know this even in the end, because he said, pray your flight don't be on the Sabbath. So you need to make sure you ain't booking no Saturday flights if we trying to leave out here, or no Saturday boats. Okay, that's a fight as well. Verse 21.
For then shall be great tribulation.
So he's saying after this, we're going to get to the Great Tribulation. So, like, this is one of them chapters they not going to read at a funeral. Because at the funeral, they try to say that we be in the grave until the Lord come back. Well, at the funeral, they try to say we leave the grave and we go up to heaven and we up there. And then when the Lord come back, he doing something else. And I guess you coming back with him or something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But what the Bible is saying is, look, if you dead, you stay in the grave. And if you are alive, you have to deal with this great tribulation. And we're going to learn more about this great tribulation because the basis of our lesson today, or the first half, is the place of safety during tribulation. So we got to see that. All right. So it said, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor there ever shall be. Now, we all been here a little bit of time now, so we may have learned some history. This gonna be worse than Antiochus Epiphanes when he came through and sacked Jerusalem during the Romo-Grecan era, during the Greek time period. This be worse than 70 AD. We watched in 70 AD and we said they had, starving tactics, and, we read things about how many people hung on crosses, numbers into the hundreds and thousands. The Great Tribulation is going to be worse than this. The Great Tribulation is going to be worse than the slave trade. It's going to be worse than World War II when they killed those so-called Jews, a.k.a. those Edomites. Like all that, the Great Tribulation is going to be the worst time ever. It's going to be called something else too, though. Verse 21, read that again.
For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, nor ever shall be.
Right. Now, let's get down to verse 29. Let's find out what happens right after the tribulation. And what we looking for the rapture. You know what I mean? Like when I say that, because the world, that's what the world said. They rapturing you off. And if you watch the Left Behind series, which I watched them and I listen to them, they're entertaining. They're very entertaining, and I like some of the concepts on even them showing the tribulation period. Cause they got a whole bunch of different series with inside of them. You know what I mean? And just some ideas. But what does 29 say?
Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
Okay, that's good. So we seeing that after the Great Tribulation, we seeing the return of the Lord. That's it. We seeing immediately after the Great Tribulation, we seeing the sun darken, but then it said verse 30, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the earths of the tribe mourn, and they're going to see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. All right? So that's what happens directly after the Great Tribulation. Now we're going to move over to Daniel, because it said the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet. When you see him stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. That's what it said in Matthew. So now we got to go back here to Daniel chapter 8. That's where we're going. So like you are a New Testament Christian, you're going to be in some trouble. Because you got to go back to the Old Testament to get an understanding on what Jesus was talking about. And he was talking about the sign of his coming and the end of the world. Now, we're going back to the book of Daniel. A lot of people don't even understand what Daniel is really about. Daniel is about the captivity of Israel from start to finish. They start the book of Daniel off, they walking into Babylon. By the time we're done with the book of Daniel, 12 chapters later, the Lord is returned, and he giving you numbers, 1,335, you'll be blessed. 1,290, you're giving you numbers by the time you're done, telling you how long this captivity gonna be. Then in the midst of the book, like Daniel chapter 9, it shows you what we like to call the 70 weeks of Daniel, in which it shows you us being in captivity for 70 weeks. But in its totality, the book of Daniel is about the captivity of Israel start to finish as a nation. Now, as we take the finish of Israel, we're going to have different governments and different dynasties that come up. Babylon was the first. Then after Babylon was the Medes and the Persians, then the Greeks, then the Romans. This is all documented history. Okay? Now, when we get to Daniel chapter 8, we're going to pick this up in verse 9 through 14. When you get there, go ahead.
And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land.
All right, so when we hear in Daniel chapter 8, what we picked up, really, it was kind of like coming back from Daniel chapter 7. What Daniel 7 did is it introduced the Greeks and the Medes and the Persians and the Babylonians as the world dominant powers. So now Daniel chapter 8 is continuing that, and what it's doing is it narrowed the power from the Medes and the Persians to the Greeks led by Alexander the Great and his 4 generals, and then afterward it brought us to Rome, which really we still under Rome's hand now. Okay, now these horns and stuff just represent governments. So he said, and out of one of them came forth a small or a smaller horn, which are kings, governments are kings, which exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. I think we talked about this when I was here last time. But look, I'm just gonna be real with you. You're not gonna be able to understand this if you change your map, y'all. Like, look, this Rome in 70 AD is Rome today. Like, if you like anybody who passed history class gonna know that the Greek history, Greece is still Greece. And they went down to Egypt during Greece. That's where we get your Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Like, if you decide that you want to change the locations, then all I can tell you is you're not going to get a visual, because the visual is based off of what we have seen on our map. The only map that I've ever seen. I've never seen another map, to be honest with you. With that being said, notice here, it says, and out of them came forth a little horn which exceeding great toward the south. So this horn actually is coming out of Rome. And what's south of Rome is actually the northern Africa, which you will see Egypt is there. That's your pathway to take you toward the Holy Land. Okay? Keep reading though.
And it waxed great, even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground.
Right, so this little horn was messing with the stars. We ain't talking about like the solar system stars, but that's a whole nother story. Basically, we're going to see that this guy here, he's going to be the head of the trouble that's going to come upon. He's going to be king of the earth. All right, keep reading.
And stomped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
So this guy, this little horn, he's magnifying himself. Like, all the way up to God. That's what he magnified himself to. Go ahead.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
All right, so look, one of the things that we're going to see one of the things that you want to look for in life, because you see this says that you got a daily sacrifice that's going to be taken away. So one of the things you need to look for is some daily sacrifice to start. Exactly. You can't take away something that has never started. Who's sacrificing? Well, is it the Baptists? No. The Lutheran? No. How about the Catholics? No. Who does the sacrifice? Now, what about the Muslims? People be forgetting about the Muslims. They over there in the Middle East saying that the promised land is theirs too. That's Abraham's other brother. I mean, that's Abraham's other son, Ishmael. And he's saying, that's your Arab. And he's saying, this is mine too. Do they sacrifice? No. There's only really one, besides maybe some witches and stuff. But biblically, there's only one religious faction that's really in sacrificing, and that's Israel. Well, we know, we've learned that someone has taken the identity of Israel, claiming it as their own, like it says in Revelation 2 and 9 and 3 and 9, that there are some people out here that saying they Jews and they're lying. These people are going to start back sacrificing. Now, and furthermore, if you just like go and do the least amount of homework, you'll recognize that not only the book says somebody's going to start sacrificing, but you'll recognize that they're over there building a temple now, so that they can accomplish the goal of restarting a priesthood and sacrificing. So they're right now in Jerusalem with the blueprints in Jerusalem. And if you look at your lesson, you're going to see something that say Dome of the Rock. And the reason I'm putting that in the lesson is because we're going to learn that the Dome of the Rock is important to the Lord, that he got it sitting right there. Because the Gentile, the white man, he runs the world. He wants to rule it all, including the Holy Land, including he wants where this temple is that we was reading about in Matthew 24. He wants that too. You know, the world, we real sentimental. We like to cherish stuff. You know, we like to, you know, like have anybody ever watched the movies like Predator? Anybody ever watched the Predator? The Predator is some alien that comes in from another country, or comes in from another planet. And when he kills you, he keeps your head for a trophy. And the point that I'm getting to that is that's what we like to do. Like this, like man, we like to keep our little trophies. You know what I'm saying? Like we like to show what we done accomplished and what we did. And this is how the Antichrist, like he ain't no different. Man ain't no different. And anyway, we're gonna keep reading. We'll pick that up later. What verse are we at?
Verse 12.
Go ahead.
And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered.
Go ahead.
Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto that certain saint which spake, How long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host be trodden underfoot?
How long?
And he said unto me, Unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
All right, so he was like, look, they're going to start the sacrificing over there. And then they said, how long is it going to be? It's 2,300 days. So at the end of the 2,300 days, the sanctuary will be clean. So they're going to start sacrificing somewhere, and they saying that sacrificing is defiling the sanctuary, and it's going to be 2,300 days later before it's actually clean. That 2,300 days later, believe it or not, the cleansing of the sanctuary comes from God. When he come back and he destroys the sanctuary, that's when it's going to be clean. It's going to be clean by blood, not soap and water. All right, because it wasn't defiled by just the simple. But let's go over to Daniel chapter 11. It wasn't defiled by dirt, I say. It was defiled by the actions of mankind. So we're going to go over to Daniel 11. We're going to read a little more about this abomination of desolation dude. This Antichrist. Daniel chapter 11, the one that's going to kick off the Great Tribulation. Daniel chapter 11, and let's pick this up at verse 31. When you get there, go ahead and read.
An arm shall stand on his part.
So arms like you're going to have a military, this person we're reading about. We're going to see who he is.
And they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination, make it desolate.
All right, so, you know, looking at Daniel chapter 11, and again, you know, Daniel 8, the book of Daniel period. You know, it's based off the fact that Babylon is the leading power, and they are somewhere up near the Fertile Crescent as their origin. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is where they started from. And they ruled the world from Babylon, ruled the world, then the Medes and the Persians, then the Greeks, and then the Romans. Just like you see when we was in high school. Nothing changed, because that's what happened. You know, you got atheists going to school. They ain't, you know, look, everything in life ain't about conspiracy. Seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything ain't got to be all, oh yeah, they trying to trick me. Right, okay, but for what though? They trying to trick China too, huh? See, China and Russia, they the enemy. So wouldn't they be saying, nah, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. The world looks like this. The world is flat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, you have to think about who is benefiting from somebody lying to all of us, honestly. But at any rate, going back to this, so it said in verse 31, and they're going to have a military, and they're going to pollute the sanctuary of strength, and they're going to take away the daily sacrifice. So they started one, they're going to take it away, and when they take away the daily sacrifice, that's them setting up the abomination of desolation. Because it's a reason why he's taking away the daily sacrifice, the Antichrist. So literally, when I'm talking daily sacrifice, I'm talking about the same sacrifices that we was doing in Exodus and in Leviticus, that we were doing. Now somebody else is going to start mimicking it. Then you're going to have somebody to come in and be like, nah, y'all don't need to do the sacrifices. I'm the replacement or vicar of Christ. Like, that's how that's going to go. He going to stop. Verse 36.
30. Oh, okay. 6.
No, you're right. I'm wrong. Wait a minute. No, I'm right. 36, yeah.
And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
Go ahead.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers.
Right, I used to always wonder, how is he going to not regard the God of his fathers? Well, once I understood the person and the position, this is the Antichrist coming from the Roman Catholic Church. Who are his fathers? The other popes. Well, all the other popes, all of them, maybe something like one, gave God glory. You know, they gave Jesus glory. You know, they ain't, you know, they Mary, the Virgin Mary, she important, you know, but still they gave the glory to Jesus. Now, whether they right or wrong in their actions is not the point. It said they're not gonna regard the God of their father. This last dude, he is the Antichrist. He ain't giving Jesus nothing. Like he coming in there, he gonna come in there changing it. Like it's gonna be something weirdly new. It's not even like it's gonna be something like, nah, there's no way y'all buying it. Y'all buying that? Y'all believing what this dude just said? And it's gonna be more like that. So he gonna come in totally different than his predecessor. All right, what verse are we at?
37.
Go ahead.
Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God. He shall magnify himself above all.
Yeah, go ahead.
But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and the God of God, and a God of whom his fathers knew not. Shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones, and with pleasant things.
Right. He gonna be on a whole nother page with his guy. Now let's move over to Revelation chapter 12 now. Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12. So right now what we're doing is we are setting the stage for the Antichrist. Because the Antichrist brings on the Great Tribulation. And that's what you need your safety from. A lot of people be thinking, you know, like I said, they're going to get raptured up and they're going to be in some other place of safety. That's not how it's going to work. You look to the past. You look to Egypt. And we're going to see that you're supposed to look to Egypt to comprehend what's going to happen later. All right? Revelation chapter 12, and let's pick it up at verse 1. And when you get there, go ahead and... My tripping. I am tripping. Did I do this right? All right, don't worry about it. We're just going to have to go pick it up when we need to. The Revelation chapter 12, we're going to pick it up at verse 1.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head.
Keep reading.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
All right, so here's what's happening in Revelation chapter 12. And we could go ahead and jump down to verse 9 now, but it's gonna be Satan and it's gonna be Israel, and they meet up in this chapter, and we're gonna see what happens between the two of them in this chapter. Okay, so when it said, "And there appeared a wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, the head of crown of star was 12 stars." This is a representation of Israel based off of Genesis chapter 37. Then it says she was with child, travailing in birth, pain to be delivered. That child was Jesus. But then in verse 3 it said, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns, 7 crowns upon his head." So this dragon came from the book of Daniel, and it represents Babylon. It represents that particular dynasty. Okay. Then he said his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, referring to the angels. Did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to devour her child as soon as it was born. So basically, that's where we at. We got a standstill between the dragon and the woman. Now let's read verse 9.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
Right. So now we seeing that this dragon was Satan. Okay. Now let's go back to verse 4. Yep. Go back to verse 4.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven.
Talking about Satan.
and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Go ahead.
And she brought forth a man child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto God and to his throne.
So this child that this woman had was Jesus, because that's the only person that had been caught up to the throne was Jesus. Nobody else. Go ahead.
And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
So it's saying, like, look, this is how long that this. It said again, and it says, and a woman fled into a wilderness where she had a place prepared of God, that God should feed her there for 1,260 days. So that's 1,260 days. This is how long this woman would be protected from this dragon. All right. Now let's move over to
verse 13.
Yeah, verse 13. Yep.
And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child. And the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time.
So notice here, and if you look up the word time, it actually represents a year. So time, and then it says time. So that's not 1, 2 times. That's 3 years. And then a half a time, or dividing a time, is a half. It's 3.5 years, which is the same thing as 1,260 days. All right. This is how long there is going to be animosity between Israel and between the serpent. Let's go back to chapter 11. This is what I left out of here. We're going to go back to chapter 11. We're going to read. We're going to start at 1. Revelation 11 and 1. Because during this time period, we started the lesson off at Matthew 24. And he was showing them the temple. He said, now one stone going to be left upon another, until, basically until the Lord. And he began to talk about the Lord coming back. But he said, when you see the abomination of desolation stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So now we're going to go to Revelation chapter 11. Now, in Revelation 12, we saw 1,260. And we saw a times and a half a time. Now we're going to see a new number here. Pick it up at verse 1.
And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and of them that worship therein.
All right, so look, this is John. This is 66 or 65 AD, something like that. It's the time period. He walked with Jesus. He was there when Jesus said there will be not one stone left upon another. He was being talked to then. If this were another temple at some other place, then he would have made mention. So this is the same temple that was spoken of when Jesus was here, which in turn, the reason they was saying something to him was because Solomon's temple was on that same ground. The temple that when we face Jerusalem, we're actually facing Solomon's temple. That's the reason why we stand and face Jerusalem. So when Jesus and the disciples was walking and they saw the temple, the whole point was that it was a temple there before and it was destroyed. Now look at the new temple. And what the Lord is saying, no, this one's going to be destroyed too. And then I'm going to actually build another temple there, but they're going to try to do it first. All right? Now, watch what this say here. Revelation 11 and 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod. And the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar and them that worship therein. Verse 2.
But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be tread underfoot 42 months.
So he said for 42 months, the stuff outside the temple was going to be given to the Gentiles. 42 months. That's 12. Plus 12 is 24. Plus an additional 12 is 36. I'm counting 12 because I'm counting months. So that's 3 years. And if you add 6 to that 36, that gives you 42. So once again, we come up with the number 3.5 years, in which it said, verse 2, but the court which is without the temple, leave that out, Measure not, for it is given into the Gentile. Now, it said the court which is outside the temple. So now, I'm going to do something for everyone here. We're going to go to Wikipedia. And the reason I chose Wikipedia is because most people have it on their phone. And so it's easy for you to find it. But we're going to go look at Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock under Wikipedia. That's where we're going. Now, some people be like, oh, Wikipedia, man, do that. Let me explain Wikipedia. First of all, pedia, the word pedia, if I'm not mistaken, means, I want to say library, but I know I might be wrong. But regardless, though, that word pedia, like encyclopedia and Wikipedia, they're the same thing, it's just different locations. One is found in books, one is found online. The information that you find on Wikipedia is as inaccurate as picking up an encyclopedia. Or it is as accurate as picking up an encyclopedia. The main difference in Wikipedia and the reality is that people lie. So, for example, if you go look up Beyonce, it might say she's 28. She lying. She ain't 28. You see what I'm saying? Like, people lie. But we ain't lying on where Antarctica is. It ain't up north. We not lying on what time of the day Brazil get the sun versus China get the sun. And the reason we're not lying on that is because we'll shut Wikipedia down once we realize that they just bogus. It'll be known by now, this is bogus. No, Wikipedia now, I don't know about initially when it came out, is being sourced in schools and things of that nature. So I'm saying all that because at one point when I was getting the word, Wikipedia was said to not be a reliable source. And I beg to differ now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just as reliable as you picking up a Britannica. Okay? Now, with that being said, we're going to read about the Dome of the Rock. So if anybody was able to pull up Wikipedia and all they had to do was type up Dome of the Rock, a lot of times I will search Dome of the Rock and I might put WIKI and it kind of helps you find it. So I'm gonna read a little bit of it, and we're gonna start reading about the Dome of the Rock. Now look, we still talking about the Great Tribulation and all that. What I'm trying to show you right now is that the temple, cause the start of the Great Tribulation revolves around the temple that's over there. So you gotta understand what's going on. So we're gonna start reading the Dome of the Rock. The Dome of the Rock, whatever that say Hebrew, whatever, is an Islamic shrine located on the Temple Mount. So what they're saying is the Islamic people have put this shrine on where the temple was. Now you say, when they do that? How they do that? Man, they're gonna tell you here, but they've been fighting over that. Islam started in the 600s AD. That's like 600 years after Jesus. It's like 600 years after this story that we read here. And they wanted what they always thought was theirs, the promised land. And they battled for the next 600 years, for about 600 to 1200, over who gonna run Jerusalem, the Holy Land. And you wanna know something? I can't say they lost. Almost turned down to a stalemate. As they say, nobody wins in war. Because even since then, it's been a controversy over that land over there, over who run it. You know, you go over there, is it named Palestine? Is it named, you know what I'm saying? Like Palestine, I think that's the Arab name. You know what I'm saying? So, they calling it Palestine, and, we calling it Jerusalem. The Lord's peace, that's what Jerusalem means. Okay? But it's the same land. So at any rate, the Dome of the Rock is an Islamic shrine located on the Temple Mount in the old city of Jerusalem. It was initially completed in 691 to 92 Christian era. So that means that when Islam took off, the first thing they did was start putting something to put that Dome of the Rock up. We're going to understand what it's about, though. At the order of whoever his name is, Umayyad Caliph Al-Malik. Yeah, at least I got the Malik part right. During the second fitna, on the site of the second Jewish temple. So notice what it said. They said that they did this on the site of the second Jewish temple. Now, again, I'm going to go back to Revelations and read this so you can hear where we at. Revelation verse 2. Well, 1 and 2. And there was given me a reed. John had a reed. Unto the rod. Basically, he had a measuring tape. And the angel said, rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave that out, measure it not, for it is given to the Gentiles. Now, the temple sits where the Dome of the Rock is. Now, I don't know if anybody has had the privilege or the opportunity to, watch just a documentary, because you ain't, a lot of us ain't been to Jerusalem. But just to watch a documentary on the Dome of the Rock, and you will see that it is super high class security, and you barely can use your phone in there. That's how they playing it over there. Okay. So at any rate, back to this Dome of the Rock. Destroyed during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. So that's when the temple was destroyed. The original dome collapsed in 1015 and was rebuilt 1022 to 23. The Dome of the Rock is in its core one of the oldest extant works of Islamic culture. Its architect and mosaic were patterned after the Byzantine churches. Okay, that's good. So now I want one other thing out of here. The history. So I'm going to the history section, and that's like the third section of Wikipedia for the Dome of the Rock. And this is what it says: the Dome of the Rock is situated in the center of the Temple Mount, the site of the Temple of Solomon and the Jewish Second Temple, which had been greatly expanded under Herod the Great. This is the time Jesus was there, in the 1st century BCE. Herod's temple was destroyed in 70 AD by the Romans, and after the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135, a Roman temple to Jupiter Capitolius was built at the site by Emperor Hadrian. So basically what they're saying is, when they kicked us out, they put a shrine to their God there on the temple. So you know what the Lord was already on. Like, nah, I'm going to bring in my other son. Straight up. When I say my other son, Abraham's other son. And he a wild man. That's prophesied back in Genesis. He's like, nah, I bet they don't put this crap up when he get in here. Because he going to kill. That's what happened next. All right. Next paragraph. Jerusalem was ruled by the Christian Byzantine Empire through the 4th to 6th century. During this time, Christian pilgrimages to Jerusalem began to develop. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre were built under Constantine in 320. The Temple Mount was left underdeveloped after a failed project of restoration of the Jewish temple under Julian Apostate. So that's an Edomite. So basically, some Edomites tried to rebuild the temple when they got there, but it didn't go down that way. Original construction. That's the next chapter. The initial octagonal structure of the Dome of the Rock and its round wooden dome has basically the same shape as it does today. It was built by the order of some dude named Umayyad Caliph Abdul al-Malik, according to something else. All right, yeah, I know, right? I'm trying to show y'all why they built it there, because they're saying, the Muslims are saying that that's where they sacrifice Isaac at. I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I could keep reading this all day, and we're not going to do that. So let's get back to the book. So at the end of the day, though, they put that dome on a rock where the temple is. And what they're saying is, this is where Abraham sacrificed Isaac, which it could be, I don't really know, to be honest with you. But we do know that the temple was there. So what they're doing is making sure that the Antichrist doesn't get the temple. Because they're going to rebuild over there, but they can't rebuild on the Dome of the Rock. So when we were in Revelation 11, it said, leave that part, Nashan. Come sit up here. Your next move, you're going to be sitting right next to this brother. Think I'm joking. So he says, but leave the outside of the temple, leave that part out. We're going to give that to the Gentile. I said up here. Right here. No, where are you going?
Out of the camera.
Oh, you don't walk in front of the camera. You wasn't. Now you are. So we're going to wait on you. All right, so now we're going to go to Jeremiah chapter 30. Jeremiah chapter 30. So again, here's what we got going on. They put them Ishmael put that dome with a rock there. We can say to protect the actual temple that the Lord built. So the Gentiles not gonna be able to have the temple that the Lord built. They're gonna have the outside court. Okay? That's where he gonna do the abomination of desolation. Outside where the original temple was. Now we're gonna go to Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 2 through 3. Let's start with it. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 2 through 3. When you get there, go ahead and read.
Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book.
Go ahead.
For lo, the day comes, saith the Lord, I will bring again the captivity of my people, Isaac and Israel and Judah, saith the Lord. I will cause them to return to the land that I have given to their fathers, and they shall possess it.
Right. So at the end of the day, right now, we in New York. We all over the world. That's not what it's going to be. Now look, when it's going to be, wherever we going to be, us in this room, our plans, our hope for tomorrow is that we are in the resurrection. And that the Lord, when he returning, that he's not gathering us to bring us back to Israel. That's what we hope. We hope we are part of the team gathering. Either way, though, Israel, when the Lord returns, will get gathered and will be brought back to Jerusalem. I'm talking about cousins and them who can't stand what you do, your grandma, whatever the case is, the people who think you crazy, it doesn't matter. Like they will all come back to Jerusalem. Okay? So he said, For lo, days come, said the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, said the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they should possess it. All right, now let's jump over to verse 7. When you get there, go ahead.
Alas, but that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, that he shall be saved out of it.
But notice what he calling it. He calling it the time of Jacob's trouble. That's what, he's calling this time period. Okay? Well, I thought you had to say the gathering for a minute. Hey, you see some have. Yep. So we're going to read, Alas, for the day is great, so that none is like it. So look, this time period, leading up to the return of the children of Israel, because that's what verse 2 and 3 was talking about. It's called the time of Jacob's trouble. We Jacob, y'all. It's going to be worse for us than anybody else. You want to know how do we survive the mark of the beast? Because we're going to be the ones on the bottom. They going to be offering it, but we ain't going to have nothing to be taking it anyway. Like, understand, the mark of the beast is about buying and selling. You don't have the mark of the beast, you can't buy and sell. You know what else you need to buy and sell? Money. You know what they doing right now? They feeding us on the bottom. They giving us all we got right now. So the moral of the story is, by the time we get to this point, them people that's on the bottom, they ain't getting the mark of the beast. They ain't gonna have no money to buy and sell with anyway. You understand? Like it's called the time of Jacob's trouble. Like we Jacob, it's gonna be the worst time. Y'all think it's bad out here now because every other week you see them killing us on the police. What you think is gonna happen when the citizens get to do it too? You know what I'm saying? Like they've been doing it, ain't nothing stopped. Like I still remember Rodney King. I still remember what the video looked like. That's like the first time that we were pretty much able to see the police brutality videos from the 80s on. You know what I mean? Like prior to that, all we seen was the freedom marches and all that great stuff and the water hoses. We ain't seen it like that though, till pretty much we saw Rodney King. Well, guess what? It's a whole host of videos like that now. It ain't getting no better. It's getting worse. Mm-hmm. And it's gonna get down to the point where they just gonna be able to, like if you ain't a part of their organization, whatever their organization is, then you a problem. No questions asked. Time of Jacob's trouble. This is what the Great Tribulation is. All right. So now let's go over here, Revelation chapter 6. We're gonna pick the Antichrist back up. Revelation chapter 6. And we're going to pick this up at verse 2 through 11. Revelation chapter 6, verse 2 through 11. So these are the seals. When you go in the book of Revelation, they made movies based off of this stuff. They be wrong though. You got 7 seals. The 7th seal is gonna open up the trumpets. Trumpets. Same trumpets that you see back in the walls of Jericho is the same trumpets that you see later. Meaning, like there's a parallel between the two. So at any rate, Revelation chapter 6, and let's pick this up in verse 1. And when you get there, go ahead.
And I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, thanks.
No problem.
And I saw and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer.
All right. So Revelation chapter 6, verse 2. This is your introduction to the Antichrist. And notice what it said. I saw a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him. So he's good. So this Revelation 6 and 2, he's a king of something. And he went forth conquering and to conquer. Go ahead, keep reading.
And when he had opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon, to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword.
Right. So now this guy right here is going to take peace from the earth. Now remember what we just read in Jeremiah chapter 30. It said that's the time of Jacob's trouble. Then we saw in Matthew 24, he was like, this is the worst time ever. So I'm trying to get you to understand, this is the same guy during the same period. This is the guy that's orchestrating all of this. All right, keep reading.
And when he had opened up the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine."
Right, so look, this guy, this Antichrist, it says a measure of wheat for a penny. He's gonna have control of your money. He's gonna have control of your food. That's why I was making the statement. I'm like, look, like just pay attention to what's going on right now. So we hit a plague, and the government, our country had to save the poor. And that's what they saved. They saved the poor. They gave the poor a whole bunch of money. They never gave the poor this much money because of one plague that happened, COVID-19. So that means that really the plague started in 19. We're in 2021. All right, it'll probably be about another year before it's all just settled down to whatever normalcy they want to put us under. I don't know what that means. We might be wearing everywhere for the rest of our lives, straight up. You know what I'm saying? Like they do in Asia. This wouldn't be the first place they do that. But then they bailing us out. But what's gonna happen the next time? And the next time? Because remember we read pestilence and famines in diverse places. This stuff about to keep happening. So yeah, we might get like a nice little 2-year run, or maybe a year run, ain't nothing. And then next thing you're gonna know, you're gonna have SARS 25. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna be killing everybody. And then can they bail you out again? They'll keep bailing us out, huh? You see what I'm saying? Like it ain't gonna work like that. I mean, because it ain't no money to bail you out to start with. If you really want to be honest, it's more debt. And eventually somebody gonna say China, the East. Somebody gonna say I need my money back. That's what we get. That's what we loan. That's who loaning us the money. Somebody gonna say I need my bread back. So the point we're getting at though in all of this is where do you think the black man is? What do you think we play in all that? We on the bottom of the bottom. Don't nobody care. Ain't nobody been caring about you. Trust me, if they finna starve out a society of people here, starve them out, they gonna starve us out. We gonna be the ones. It ain't gonna be the Mexicans. You might think, oh, they'll starve out the Mexicans. Stop playing. The Mexicans been easy. They've been easily handling their business. They the ones that take a job for $1,000 that's gonna be done in a day, and 7 of them be on the job, and you trying to wonder how they gonna split the money till you realize that they got their women doing another job for $500, and they gonna all be done in 2 days. They're gonna take that money and put it into 2 houses. You see what I'm saying? So by the end of the week, they sitting there with $4,000, $5,000 in two houses while you got your normal $800, $900 paycheck. Just something, so they ain't worried about them. They right for the system. That's what they say. It's us. So anyway, this Antichrist, he gonna have control over everything, and he gonna have control over the money, something that we not have. But keep reading, verse 7.
And when he had opened up the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, Come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the earth.
So now this same guy, he gonna have power. He gonna be killing all kind of stuff on this earth. He's gonna run it. These are the seals that deal with the Antichrist. Now we'll come back to this, I believe. Okay, well, let's go to Revelation chapter 13 now. Pick up the Antichrist a little more. Pick him up a little more. Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. And we're going to read verses 1 through 5. So why are we here? We're here because we're picking up that dynasty again. We about to find where this Antichrist comes from. Revelation chapter 13. Let's pick up the verse 1. When you get there, go ahead and read.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horn 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed.
Go ahead.
And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?
Go ahead.
And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months.
So again, we're seeing the number 3.5 years. This is how long that this guy gonna have this power. This is the Antichrist. We're seeing these numbers throughout the Bible. One thing we have not seen was 7 years. That's heavily preached. I know before I ever got into the word, if you would have asked me, how long was the tribulation? Because I knew about the tribulation. I didn't know what it really was or who it was supposed to affect. I just knew it was the mark of the beast. I would have told you 7 years, because that's what they told me whenever I went to church. I eavesdropped and heard that, and they ain't tell me nothing. I'm too young to know anything. But I still managed to hear that. So that's what they telling you, all right? Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 16. Isaiah chapter 16. What we got to learn is what God has done in the past, he does it in the future. It's just like the resurrection. How he gonna turn us into God. We ain't gonna be the first one. What about Enoch? Like what he does in the past, he is doing it in the future. Okay? And what I mean by that is that the same stuff that, like he delivering the children of, if you notice in Deuteronomy 28, it said, I will bring you back to Egypt again on ships. So the Lord is looking at where we are right now as Egypt. And he is about to do Egypt the same way as he did them before. Okay, and we're going to understand that. So, if that be the case, then when you go look at the plagues that hit, and we're not going to get into a whole lot of them today. That's, like that really goes more with the fact that you should have been reading that right after the Passover and during the Passover. And when I say you should have been, I'm saying, so we study the Bible at church. Then you should be going home and doing some reading. So the Passover and the unleavened bread came up. So now you should have, by the time you seen what the Passover was, which was the 10th plague, you should have went and made sure you read all the others. Seriously. And you would have saw that by the time we got to like number 4 or number 5, not sure exactly which one, we can go back and read it in Exodus chapter 12 and 11 and so on and so forth. You will see that God made a difference between Israel. As a matter of fact, before we go here, let's go back and read one time. Exodus chapter 9. We'll read it one time where he used the word sever, and then we'll come back up to the front. Let's go to chapter 9, and let's start at verse 1. We're going to read 1 through 7. That's how we're going to do this. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 9, verse 1 through 7. We're going to read that. And then when you get there, when we're done with that, we'll go back to Isaiah. Go ahead.
Then the Lord said unto Moses, Go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and will hold them still, behold, the hand of the Lord is upon the cattle which is in the field, upon the horse, and upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain, and the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt.
So what he's saying is the Lord gonna make a difference between what Egypt got and what Israel got. So how is he gonna make this difference? Keep reading up.
And there shall nothing die of all that is the children of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow the Lord shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died, but the cattle of the children of Israel died not.
That's good. Now on the back of your paper, just so y'all can see, the bottom map. And if you look at the bottom map, you see Egypt. Egypt, what you're gonna learn throughout history, especially biblical history, Egypt is the constant. Egypt been here, Egypt still here. You know what I mean? Like that's what you know. And really, believe it or not, you was down in Egypt building pyramids, and they still here. So the evidence that we were slaves in the Bible still remains to this day. Okay? But what I want you to see is when you look at your map, and it says Israel exodus from Egypt and the entry into Canaan, and it's on the back of your lesson. I appreciate that, Sister Lisa. If you notice, it says Egypt, but right above Egypt you see Python and Goshen. Goshen is where we were. So we was in Goshen getting severed or not having to deal with the same plagues that hit the children of Israel. They hit the Egyptians while they was in Succoth and Pi-Arth and the city of Ramsey, whatever city they was in. And what you're looking at actually is you actually watching our flight pattern out of Egypt. And it's the reason why we're looking at this flight pattern. We'll look at it a little more later. But as a matter of fact, we're going to look at it after we look at this Isaiah 16. So let's go over to Isaiah 16. So the Lord had us in a land called Goshen while he was destroying Egypt. All right? Now, that being said, we're going to go here and we're going to see that the Lord not going to put us in Goshen. He's going to bring us to the wilderness to perform the same task. Now, we was in Revelation chapter 6, and we saw the first 4 seals, and we saw all that the Antichrist was doing. So Antichrist is the equivalent to Pharaoh. Okay. Now, Isaiah 16, let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, go ahead and read.
Send he the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah, to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughters of Zion. For it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday.
Go ahead.
Hide the outcast, bewray not him that wandereth.
So notice what it's saying. He's saying, hide my outcast, and he told you where. He said, for it shall be as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. So this is actually where the location is. We're going to see that on our map. take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow, talking to the fords of Arnon and Moab, as the night in the midst of noonday, hide the outcast. So we're hiding the children of Israel. Now, if you look at your top map, it says, you'll see where it says Mount Olive, Moriah, Mount Zion. All these are mountains that have significance in the Bible. Then you see that Dead Sea. Then you see Mount Nebo. And then you see a river running into the Dead Sea, and it says Arnon. Now, if you go down to your bottom map, at your top right-hand corner is the same thing that you're looking at. You ain't got no map, bro? On the back? Oh, okay. You just looking around like you looking for somebody's map. Where's Pete? I don't know. He called yesterday. He was supposed to read today. He said he wasn't going to make it to read. Yeah. But at any rate, so if you look at the top of that map and you see Dead Sea. Now, if you look where it says Jerusalem, Hebron, Canaan, Ardad, because this is black and white. So it's hard. Everybody don't got one? Oh, okay. So it's hard for everybody to necessarily see it. But if you're looking at the top right, I'm up here. And some of y'all can use the back of your Bibles too. Some of us have color pictures in the back of our Bibles. But if you're looking at it, that Dead Sea and that Dead, it's the same place. So right to the right of the Dead Sea is where Arnon and Moab and all that is. Now, what you're looking at on the bottom is our exodus out of Jerusalem. Out of Egypt. And when you get down, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When you get down to number 8, that's us getting the commandments. So 1 through 8 is like leaving Egypt, going to get the commandments. And when you get to like number 6, that's when we killed some people on our way to getting the commandments. Like, so before the Pentecost. Because you got to understand, we left, number 1 was the Passover, the unleavened bread. That's when we left with number 1. By the time we get to number 8, we get to number 8, it's the Pentecost, biblically. So Exodus chapter 13 and 14 is number 1. And by the time you get to Exodus 19, you're down to number 8 on your maps. Do y'all follow what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm trying to get you to be able to chronologically see what we're talking about. Now, after they got the commandments, they went up into the wilderness. And they actually went up, and they went, Edom went, like if you look at the map, like you go to number 10, it's showing you the order. 12, like they went back in some. But then when they got to 13, Edom wouldn't let them go in their land. So they had to go around Edom land a little bit. And then we finally made it to 14. That's the wilderness that we was in. Okay? So like this is us before we actually get our land, like Judah get this land, Benjamin get this land, all of that. This is the path that we travel to out of Egypt. And this is, like I say, the numbers help us give us some type of chronological, because number 1 is Exodus 12, 13, 14. 15 really, because we're leaving out of Egypt. By the time you get to number 8, that would be the 10 commandments. That's your Pentecost. Okay? So, because when you read in Exodus, you'll see they start on the 2nd month, on the 15th day of the 2nd month. Like, they're going to tell you what's happening there. You should be able to identify it in this map. Okay? So, back to Exodus 16, Isaiah 16 and verse 4. You can read verse 4. Yeah.
Let my outcast dwell with thee, Moab.
So look what it's saying. Let my outcast dwell with you, Moab. This is Moab's land. You seeing that on your map. Okay, go ahead.
Be thou covert to them.
Right, protect them. Go ahead.
From the face of the spoiler.
Uh-huh.
For the execution is at an end. The spoiler ceaseth. The oppressor are consumed out of the land.
Right, so notice what it's saying, like protect them from something. And so just like Goshen did for the children of Israel, this is what the wilderness is going to do for us. It's going to protect us in the wilderness so we don't have to get our wigs split out here, because we're going to see it's going to get bad for us out here in a minute. Let's go to Psalm 91 now. Psalm 91. And I don't know, I can say we're almost done, but we're definitely more than halfway done, if that makes sense. Because if you know anything about me and the way I teach, I start off slow, and by the time we get to the end, it just be moving, and we wrap it up. So we maybe got another hour left. But none of that bothers me because really at the end of the day, like I tell them in Philly, unless you can sit here and say that you've been running, because most people ain't even read 3 hours straight or 4 hours straight during the week. So unless you can tell me that, then really, where else you gonna get your 4 hours in? You know, who can honestly say, like, and I don't want nobody to raise their hand. I just want you to think. Anybody read their Bible for 5 hours this week? Okay? Some people might have. I'm just saying. Just think about that. So here we get here. This is the opportunity to do so. You know what I'm saying? Like we're here to read the Bible and to study and learn the Bible. That's what we come here for every week. Okay? I went through the list. This is how today's lesson came about. Today's lesson came because I went through the list of all the lessons y'all be getting, and I'm like, okay, what they missing? You know, what haven't they heard yet? You know what I'm saying? That they need to hear up here in New York. You know what I'm saying? Because I had all kind of stuff racing through my head, but then I'm like, no, let me just sit back. Let me see what the agenda is here. So that's how. And we get here, we study this. You know what I'm saying? So, and you can't, like I say, I mean, you can do what you want to. I tell you one thing we won't do. We will no longer rent this room and have church outside. Don't think I didn't notice that. And just I wasn't gonna yell about everything when I was here last. That would never happen again. We rent this room. If you are not in this room, or if you're not in your car, then you are not with us. And we will let them know that you got trespassers. We don't come here to sit outside. That's not what we come here for. You can do that at home. But you know, everything in its time. When I say that, like I could have yelled when I was here last. I could have told brothers to come and yell. I was like, no, I'll address it the next time I'm here to those that are here. Because what I know, what I see, is that every 5 years your number gonna be different. So look around and see what your number look like in 5 years. See who here and who not. That's what you're gonna learn. This is not nothing new. This ain't for everybody. You know why this ain't for everybody? Because there's one key element that this requires. Humility. That's what this requires. In order for you to learn something from God, you're gonna need humility. That's what you're gonna need. You know what I'm saying? And here's the crazy thing. Police was out to my house this week. Y'all should have seen how humble I was to that Gentile. You know what I'm saying? They weren't called on me. I needed them. You know what I'm saying? And when they got there, the first thing I said is the guy over there, he been real cooperative. Like I'm talking to him like he master. Straight up. Why? Because he got a gun. They crazy, and I ain't got time for it. It ain't gonna kill me to humble myself to the situation for my benefit. Yet and still, it kills us to humble ourselves to one another. You know what I'm saying? Like I should be able to humble myself to him way quicker than I'm humbling myself to them. You understand what I'm saying? But we don't think like that though. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like I ain't gotta humble myself to him because he ain't nobody. But that's your brother. He more than nobody. He more than them. Just something to think about. So that's the reason why you get that turnover. Because when it say God exalts the humble, but you ain't being humble, then you ain't getting exalted. You ain't elevating like you supposed to be. You're elevating how you want to be. But that ain't the elevation that God wants you to be on. So that's going to put you on another path. And you're going to see it. And the things that happened, had transpired over here over the past year since the pandemic, let's say. It ain't going to be the first or the last. It ain't nothing new. It ain't nothing that I didn't see coming. You understand what I'm saying? Like, nothing like, or, and I say, I'm saying when me and Elijah sat 2 years ago and discussed things around here. This isn't our first rodeo. You guys aren't the first people. I was messing with the kids last week. You know, me and one of the young ladies, you know, she forgot she was a student. That's the best way to put it. And what I had to tell her and my son that day, y'all ain't my first students. I was teaching before y'all was born. So what I'm saying is, the sights that we see as we cross the land amongst Israel, it ain't nothing new. None of it. Zero of it is new. And you just deal with it accordingly. But anyway, I digress. Back to the book. Psalm 91. Let's pick it up at verse 1. All that just to say we'll be done in about an hour. Psalm 91 and verse 1. And when you get there, go ahead and read.
He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty.
We still talking about the wilderness. That's the secret place of the Most High. Let me tell y'all something about this chapter. Y'all know this the chapter that Satan quote from on Jesus telling him to dash his foot against a stone. This ain't even got nothing to do with then. Like you was playing Jesus. That's what you was trying to do. Watch, we're gonna read it. Go ahead, keep on. I think we can read that far.
I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver me from the snare of the fowler and from poison pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers.
So he's saying he gonna protect us out there in the wilderness. Keep reading.
And under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night.
So look what he's saying. We not going to be afraid by the terror by night. See, brothers and sisters, what you got to understand when the Lord come back. And we going to get, let me see, Revelation. Is it on here? Man, so y'all going to make me sidetrack the whole class. Okay, so look. When the Lord come back after these plagues, after the seals that we saw, then come the trumpets or the vials of wrath that you read about. And as the Lord is coming back, he's opening up these vials of wrath, and it's like war going on, and we're going to be able to see it. See, one of the great mysteries of the Bible, one of the greatest mysteries of the Bible, is that God returns to the earth before he steps foot on it. And we're not talking about he returns for like a minute. We're talking about he's going to be on the earth for about a good 5 months before he steps foot on it. Okay? And if we don't cover it in the lesson, don't worry. We got a Bible study, or you can ask me whatever you want to ask me after class. Because I've definitely had people who said, I've never heard that. I just told you it's a great mystery. That's why you ain't heard it. But he's going to be here, and mankind will be preparing to fight him. That's how we get to Armageddon. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how we get to it. Because at first it was East versus West. But now, the West, which is going to be Rome, they're going to be looking like we got a new enemy. They really going to back up off of the East, kind of, off of that. But the East, Russia and May guys, they're going to be like, nah, y'all can back off if you want to, but we still coming at you. Because we've been had problems with you. They've been having problems. So you go like do European and Asian history. This go back 400-500 years worth. Really, it go back further than that. It go back really with the Gentiles and their problems from day one. The time they all decided to split up and start going their ways. Understand what we talking about. China went their way. Asia. We don't even act like he a European or a Gentile, but he is. You know what I'm saying? He ain't never got along with the other people on the other side. Same with the Russians. They don't went they way. They never get along with the western side of Europe. Just never. You know what I'm saying? It's always been a family feud. The war, World War II, World War I, it's a family feud. Napoleon, that's a family feud. These are your great wars that took place. So at the end of the day, when the Lord come back, we're gonna be in the wilderness and we're gonna see them battling one another out there. Okay? So he said, I'm at verse 3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrows that fly by day. Go ahead, verse 6.
Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness.
I like that. Nor for the pestilence that walk in darkness. Understand what that is. What it really is, what you want to know what it really is, it's really an angel walking that you can't see bringing the disease. That's the beauty of the Bible, is once you get understanding, you comprehend, and they ain't even talking to you like that. He was like, nor the pestilence that walketh in darkness. Go ahead.
Nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday.
Yeah, you're going to be protected from all that. Go ahead.
1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee.
Go ahead.
Only with thy eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation.
Go ahead.
There shall no evil befall thee.
See, now he's talking about us in the wilderness, and Satan gonna try to slick use this, talking about jump off the cliff. Like, this is not the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, at all. Keep reading.
Neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways.
Right. You see, that's what Satan told the devil. He's going to give angel charge over you to keep you. That was talking about us while he's protecting us in the wilderness. Not Jesus while he up on some mountain fasting. You know what I'm saying? It's the wrong thing that Satan pulled out. But the point that I'm getting at is that people who got that mind will pull out the wrong thing and use it wrong. Like that's what I sat there and watched the preacher last night. And he was talking about it was dope too, because I was like, he in Ezekiel chapter 18. I'm like, yeah, tell it. And you know what he was talking about? When the wicked man turned from his wickedness and turned to righteousness. He ain't never talking about the righteous man turned from all his righteousness. He just kept saying, see, when the wicked turned from their iniquity, and he would never tell us what iniquity was either. And I'm sitting there watching him like, oh, you telling it to him, huh? And you ain't telling them all, but you gonna try to stand before God like I ain't lied to him. But you ain't telling the truth. So at any rate, let's go over here to Daniel chapter 11 now. We're gonna see why we need all this protection, why we need all this help. As we take this, like I said, we're gonna run this to the coming of the Lord, which you're gonna see the Lord come back around verse 15. And then, 15th verse on here. Then we're gonna see, we all right. Daniel, where we going? Daniel 11?
Yeah, Daniel 11.
Daniel 11 and pick it up at verse 32. When you get there, go ahead. Daniel 11 and 32. Daniel chapter 11 and verse 32. When you get there, go ahead and read.
And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt with flatteries.
So we were here already. We picked up Abomination of Desolation in this Daniel 11 once before already. Okay? So he says, and such as do against the covenant shall he corrupt with flattery. But the people that know their God gonna be strong and do exploits. So during this great tribulation period, once again, it's gonna be people who know better. And they're gonna be out here exploiting like, nah, he's wrong. It's gonna be people like Nashan. It's gonna be people like Whitney, people like myself, if we don't make it to the wilderness. If we don't make it to that place of safety, somebody got to be out here ringing the bell. You're not gonna be doing YouTube videos, bro. Like trying to warn our family, like, trying to get up on some live stream, like, yo, we over here in the wilderness, we can get you up. Once you in here, you in there. And you out, you out. Okay? So he said, verse 32 again, go ahead.
And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploit.
Go ahead.
And they that understand among the people shall instruct many, yet they shall fall by the sword, and by flame, by captivity, by spoil many days.
Go ahead.
Now when they shall fall, they shall be hoping with little help, but many shall cleave to them with flatteries.
So the reason why it's saying they're gonna have a little help is because just like in the days of Egypt, how you had Moses and Aaron, now you're gonna have these two witnesses, and they're gonna walk around and they're gonna have powers and abilities similar to Moses and Aaron. They're gonna help a little bit. It's only gonna help a little bit. Your place of safety is the wilderness. But keep reading, because we're gonna see what happens. Because you gotta understand, people saying we getting raptured off because they saying that we're not gonna be getting killed while the Great Tribulation is going on. We're not gonna be having issues on earth with those are for those who didn't, the saints gonna be raptured off. That's what people say. Now watch this though. What verse we at?
35.
35, go ahead.
And some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed.
Right, he said, like, look, we're gonna try and purge even those that's supposed to know. People gonna have to deal with it. They're gonna have to learn about it and make a decision. At some point or another, we all gonna have to stand. You do not get into the kingdom just like hitting the shadows. Like I'm gonna hide next person's shadow. Hey, I'm not gonna ever get tested. I'm just gonna keep ducking and dodging. Like, nah, you gonna have to stand at some point. You gonna have to make a conscious effort to say, no, I'm gonna do righteous, not wicked. And everybody gonna have to know it. Okay? So he's saying in verse 35, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end. So this is how you know ain't no rapture. Rapture when, where, why? Why are we taking anybody anywhere? How y'all pick up a rapture when you taking somebody when God said, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. I'm bringing you the kingdom. Why would I bring you up here with me? I didn't even make this place for you. So let's go ahead and keep moving here. Verse 36.
And the king shall do according to his will.
Talking about the Antichrist. Go ahead.
And he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done.
Right. So look, he's saying right here that he gonna have. This book is saying he gonna have power too. But you gotta remember, if you go back and look at Egyptian plagues, when they turned their water into blood, Pharaoh dumb butt did it too. And I say dumb because why is you turning more water into blood? Like why would you do that? Like that was just dumb. Like I know, right? Stupid and proud. Like you really proud. I can do this too. Right. You can just make everything smell bad and now we ain't got water for the next couple of days. And that's something that you wanted. Why don't you turn it back to water? Now that would have been something miraculous to me. If you would have did that, but the point that I'm getting at is that the moves that Pharaoh and them was doing, they have power and magicians. It tell you all that. If you ain't seen the Prince of Egypt, then you need to go read it. You seen the Prince of Egypt, you'll see they got their magicians and they dropped the snake, he dropped the snake. It's pretty accurate. I think you do both. Read the Prince of Egypt. Real talk though, those cartoon movies and the television shows and things you watch, you know, biblically based, what they do is help us identify with what we read when we read it. Now, you know, I'm still trying to get Caesar Borgia out my head for Jesus because I did watch a whole bunch of white Jesuses, but I pretty much got him out there. And I got a new Samson now, some big black dude, I don't know. They put him in the new one. You know what I'm saying? But the moral of the story is it gives you a visual though. You know what I'm saying? It gives you, especially the cartoons. You know, because the cartoons, they be a little more free with theirs. They ain't going to make them white. They like, we're going to at least make them olive, you know, which makes more sense than making them white. But at the end of the day, though, those things are, they good for you to be able to see it. Because sometimes you need to be, like me, I can see the whole thing sometimes. You know, when I'm reading Elijah, I can see him out there and the birds coming to feed him. Or when they out there in the wilderness, I can see them out in the wilderness thanks to Charles Heston and a couple of cartoons. You know, I get a visual. And that helps, though. It helps bring it to reality for you. Okay? So, at any rate, let's get out of this Daniel. No, let's get out of this Daniel. Let's jump over to Revelation now. Revelation chapter 13. Revelation chapter 13. Yeah, I think that's supposed to be Revelation 11. I think I made a mistake on the next one. But it's all good. We'll figure it out when we get there. I'm almost positive. Because I was like, why I'm not reading all that? And then it's going to take us down to the trumpets, y'all. We'll see when we get there. So anyway, Revelation chapter 13, we're going to pick it back up at verse 5. We were here earlier. So when we were here earlier, we picked up the beast. The Babylon, the Catholic Rome. That's really what it was. Now, let's find some more. So we stopped at verse 5. There was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. Go ahead.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations.
So this man got power over the nations, and on top of that, it says, and it was given to him to make war with the saints. So again, people try to rapture us away because we are trying to escape the drama that's going to come on this earth. It's not going to happen. It's the time of Jacob's trouble. Your escape is to make it to this land of Goshen, a.k.a. the wilderness. They're equal. Goshen is where we was when we was in Egypt. The wilderness is where we'll be when the Lord is bringing his wrath, delivering us up out of Egypt again. All right? Let's skip down to verse 13.
8.
Go ahead.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live.
Go ahead.
And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed.
Look, this is how cold God is. He did this already. He did this in Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar built a statue. They had 6 instruments. The statue was like 66 cubits high. It was all representing the same thing. What I'm trying to get you to understand is if you want to know about the future, go look to the past. And if you want to know about the past, you can look to the future, honestly. You know what I mean? Like if you want to know, if you want to like how, you know, it was questioned to me, how do we validate where Jerusalem is? Somebody actually asked me that. I'm like, shoot, I don't validate it on the past. I validate it on the future. This is where the Lord about to come set up his kingdom. It's obvious now. They setting up temples. They fighting over this land. They've been fighting over this land for over 1,000 years. They ain't been fighting over Florida like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just saying, like, come on. I don't have to necessarily look back there. I can't go back there. I can't go back to this time period and be there with John. Like, yo, so what's the coordinates to Jerusalem right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to do something else. But what I can do is look at Jerusalem right now and see, does it fit to what's going on? And it does, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem. That let's not get stuck on stupid. We could be stuck on something, but just because something that we stuck on doesn't allow me to comprehend what we're doing, I can always parking lot that because I've been comprehending. You understand? I comprehend Jesus is God. I comprehend the 7 days of Sabbath. I gotta keep I gotta keep the feast days. I gotta keep all. Oh, I can't comprehend Jerusalem ain't moved. So that means everything wrong now. Huh? It wasn't wrong 2 weeks ago though. You was abandoning and everything. So what I'm saying is, don't get stuck on stupid, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Don't let because you not understanding. Because trust me, I've been in the places of not understanding. And you know what I went and did when I didn't know what name to call on? You know, like, because they was back in 98, 97, it was this camp called the NCCI down there. And that's really where the Israel of God had started in Atlanta. But they was on Yahshua big time. So now I'm getting out there in the streets preaching the gospel, and I'm running up on them, and they like, his name is not Jesus. That's Jesus, and that represents Zeus, and all this crazy stuff. And so stuff they were saying made sense. I was like, yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, it sounds like Zeus. You know, I don't know nothing yet. So you know what I go do? I go back, I get on my knees, I say, dear God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the great I am. That's what you said your name was forever. Show me, trust me, he did. He will. Whenever you don't know something, chill out, relax, go ask God, and then put in some work. Go ask God. He gonna show you. That's what he been telling you. He was like, man, I will give it to you unbraided. It's not gonna be twisted. So anytime the floating Sabbath, y'all heard of that one? Yeah, some people's out here, you know, one of my good friends. One of my good friends / teachers, matter of fact, the man that baptized me. How about that? I got baptized by Elijah and another brother. How about the man that baptized me hit me with that? The Sabbath day float. You know, it's based off the moon and all that. So what I'm just getting at is, and so look, when you hitting me like that, like I love these men. These my guys, what you on? But at the end of the day, when I see what you on ain't what the book on, all right, man, we can talk about the Pistons. You know what I'm saying? We can talk about something else. But obviously, we can't talk about this book because you don't know. You know, I'm still waiting on my fans to break Revelation 13 down to me. You know, one of the brothers who with the floating Sabbath, he called me one night. I'll tell you how long ago this was. This was 2008. We still communicate. I've been waiting since 2008. He said Matthew 24 and Revelation 13, we teaching it wrong. Really, Babylon is America. And I was like, all right, show it to me. I've been waiting over 10 years. He still ain't showed it to me. Ain't brought that conversation back up since. So, I mean, I'm just saying. And we still cool, believe it or not. Even though he don't keep the Sabbath with us. We'll talk about it too. Oh, when I call him up, I'll be like, yeah, brother boy, because he know everybody. And then the other brother just recently died, Brother Shem. So Brother Shem was one of the brothers who started Israel Church of Jesus, him and Elijah. And Shem had kind of went nuts around maybe 2005 or so. You know what I mean? So at any rate, moral of that story is examine yourself, keep yourself in check. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know something, don't jump off the deep end. Just relax. Go ask Jesus. Hold your tongue. And if you are right, which I'm right on something, I know I'm right on something, then I ain't saying no, I ain't sharing with nobody. You know why? We don't teach it and it don't matter. We don't teach it here. It doesn't matter. Meaning what I know has yet to affect anything that we teach. The little piece that I know that we ain't saying that Elijah and Bowie ain't saying the way my brain is comprehending. But you know what? I always say this. When I'm the oldest around, then we'll do it my way. You know what I'm saying? Then I've earned the right. If the Lord allowed me to live that long, you see what I'm saying? And still keep a level head and some good understanding, then I've earned the right to do it my way. Until then we're going to let the people who earn the right, we're going to do it their way. You know what I'm saying? They put in way more work than any of us I know. Because I done put in more than y'all. And they done outworked me. They had outworked me when I met them. You know what I'm saying? 30 years, 20 years. I was catching up and I'm still catching up. So what I'm getting at is, stay humble with it. Let the Lord exalt you. So anyway, back to our regular program, scheduled program. So let's pick it up in verse, 13 now?
No, we at 16.
Oh, 16, thank you.
Yeah.
See how far off I am? So at verse 15, he said that he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. This all started because I was telling y'all that the pharaohs and they had power just like here. So that's what we're getting at. It's the same equivalent. He said he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Verse 16. Go ahead, bro.
And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their forehead, in their right hand, or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name.
So this is where that mark of the beast come from, and you can't buy or sell until you get the mark. And no, this COVID vaccine ain't no mark. The mark is something that you're going to need to buy and sell. Period, point blank. So, and if they handed you a card, sure. When they try to put it in your hand and in your head, nah, we good. We good. I'm done with that. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry, we gonna all know. It ain't gonna be no secret. That's the beauty of all this. We the Illuminati. Now everybody be talking about we the illuminated ones. We the ones in the light walking around here in some secret society in plain face. You know, my neighbor still asking me what am I. She was like, I was like, I'm be in Dallas next weekend. She was like, what are you doing in Dallas? I'm like, the same thing I do every weekend. Like, you still asking me this. Like I told you from the first week you got here, the second week to when you saw all these people here, to when they finally left because we was having church in my house. Like, and you still don't get it, huh? Sometimes stuff be right in people's face, and they don't even realize it. But at any rate, let's go over to Revelation. I really think we want chapter 11.
You want to do 18?
What's 18? Go ahead, you can do that, yeah.
Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 600, threescore and six.
Yup. All right, that's good. So, I don't know why I got 11, 12 and didn't have 11. Plus, we already went to 12. So, we just going to go to Revelation 11. And I know we started it, but what we got to do, remember the lesson today is the wilderness, place of safety during the tribulation, purging after Jesus' return. So we just been covering the place of safety, all that. And it's the reason why I'm trying to be real detailed with this is because I ran into a situation where some of my teachers came. This is when I was in Detroit, and they were teaching that we go to the wilderness once, and only one time. And so we had to kind of chop it up a little bit, and eventually they was able to see it. You know, they wasn't like the head teacher or nothing. Like I'm like, he know, but y'all don't know. But at the end of the day, so what I do, and when I say that, it was Brother Rodney. For anybody who knows, it was Brother Rodney. He'll tell you that story to this day. He a cool brother. We cool. Israel Church of the Living God. That's who it was. He didn't see this before at first. You know, and so now because I understand that people, just like I just got a question this past week about the same thing, when they gonna purge the rebels? We ain't seen nothing about no rebels making it to the wilderness yet. You gotta know to get here. Rebels don't. Like, we gonna get to that part. We gonna get to that part. But that's the whole point, is that I want to make sure we clearly comprehend how this is working. Just like Goshen, we go to the wilderness. We are protected from plagues Like just like the children of Israel was protected in Goshen, we'll be protected based off of Psalm 91, based off of Isaiah 16. Now we're in Revelation chapter 11, and we're gonna start at verse 1. We are gonna read it down because what Revelation 11 is going to do is going to take us to the coming of the Lord, and then we're gonna pick that up and we're gonna finish that up from there. So when you get there, Revelation 11, start at verse 1. Go ahead, bro.
There was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall be tread under foot 42 months. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth.
Okay, so right now I want us to go back to the Prince of Egypt movie now. But just imagine we here though. You know what I'm saying? When I say that, I'm just saying visually just go back to Egypt. But we're going to be in the future because I'm trying to show you this is Aaron and Moses against Pharaoh. Go ahead, keep reading.
These are the 2 olive trees.
Aaron and Moses. Go
and
ahead.
the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouths, and devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So
the 2 witnesses who I compare to Pharaoh and Moses, they gonna have power. Like they gonna literally be able to, not power like gonna be on more witchcraft stuff. Yeah, you see the left behind, they gonna have power from God, just like Moses had power from God. You know what I'm saying? Like I was reading today when they was doing one fight, they got power from God, all right. Moses had to hold the stick up, right? Well, God wasn't helping too much because every time he started dropping the stick, they started losing the fight. It got to the point where they was like, hey, we need to put a rock under his arm. Somebody else need to come, her and Aaron. Y'all need to come hold this man's arm up. So I'm like, yeah, it's power from God, absolutely. But I'm like, but still though, even power from God ain't just like how they showing on the TVs where all of a sudden just beams of light coming out like this is Big Trouble in Little China or something. Beams of light coming out his eyes and out his ears and all that crazy stuff. It ain't working like that. It's real. That is not real. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I ain't never seen a man with laser beams coming out his eyes. You know what I'm saying? Except on DC Comics. You know what I mean? So at any rate, where are we going with this? What verse?
6.
Go ahead.
These have power to shut heaven.
So just like Moses and Aaron had power, they got power. Go ahead.
That array not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them into blood.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, look how it's playing too. It's not even so much that they gonna turn water into blood. What it's really showing you is this is your Moses and your Aaron to deliver us out of Egypt. Go ahead.
And to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will.
Dang, as often as they will. That's crazy. They just gonna be able to be like, you know what, man? We just gonna turn your whole garden black. You know what I'm saying? You thought you was eating off them greens back there. They gone. And it ain't got nothing to do with boils. That's crazy. Keep reading though.
And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and kill them.
Yep.
And their dead bodies shall lie in the streets of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified.
Right, so it was like, look, they're going to be laid in the street. That's what I'm saying, y'all. Sometimes you got to look to the future, man. Just think about what this statement says. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Gomorrah, where our Lord was crucified. Like, our Lord was crucified. Man, stop playing with me, man. Keep reading. I ain't even going to touch it like that. I'm just saying, just sometimes we ain't paying attention to what we reading. Keep going, though.
They of the people and kindreds of tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves.
So I'm going to let the cat out the bag. So these 2 witnesses, we're going to call them Aaron and Moses, even though that's not who they are, okay, at all. Aaron and Moses been gone. We just calling them that so we can keep refreshing ourselves that they're the equivalent to them. So what's going to happen is Aaron and Moses, they're going to start their joint off when the Antichrist starts. They're going to be doing their testimony for 3.5 years, just like him. But 3.5 days before the return of the Lord is when they're going to die. Now, going back to this Revelation chapter 11, it says, verse 7, and when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that is sent out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, shall overcome them and kill them. Their dead bodies, these two men, shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Gomorrah, where our Lord was crucified. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in the grave. So they're going to leave their bodies out on the street. And you know that's me. We in another place in another time, straight up, because we do not leave dead bodies outside in the street. But that's what they're going to do. Keep reading though.
And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one
like
to
Christmas.
another, because these two prophets tormented them that dwell on the earth.
What's going to happen next?
And after three days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet.
So they coming back to life 3.5 days later. The spirit of God entered back into them. But why did the spirit of God enter in them? Because it's the resurrection, y'all. It's the last trumpet, and we're going to see that. Go ahead.
And great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them.
Go ahead.
And the same hour was a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to God of heaven.
So just think about you down there in Jerusalem, and then all of a sudden, you know what I'm saying, it's an earthquake, you know what I mean, 7,000 people, bang, die off the rip, and them people start, like, you know what this is. This is the coming of the Lord. Keep reading.
The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And the 7th angel sounded, and there was great voices in heaven, saying, The kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever.
Yeah, Matthew 24. Yeah, that was supposed to be Revelation. Matthew chapter 24, and we're going to pick this up at 27. So now we at the coming of, so in so many words, we done with the wilderness as a place of safety. We've had, the Lord's back now. We're going to see that. Tribulation's over with. What do I need to be safe from the great tribulation right now? Like, that's what we about to get to. Matthew 24, let's pick it up at verse 27 through 31. 27, Matthew 24, verses 27 through 31. We read this before. We picking it back up here again. Everybody okay? All right, that's what's up. Y'all look like the studious group. No, I stand up here often here. Y'all look like the studious group. I'm just telling you. Sometimes I stand up here and people be sitting sideways, facing all outside, like they don't want to have nothing to do with what we doing or something. Like, I see all of that. I'm saying, y'all look like the studious ones. When I come here, the same people I see right now, these are pretty much the studious ones. These are the ones with their heads down and their heads up and their heads down and their hands asking questions at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, it's funny. We was talking, somebody was saying something to me about being, they was asking who Brother Reggie teacher was. I don't know who, y'all know who Reggie is. And I was like, I don't know, I asked him, he wouldn't tell me, but I did say this. I said, all of us, what was the comment I said? All of us, I know what I said. All of us, all great students have had a teacher. And if you a teacher, you know what? I'm just going to read what I said. That's what we're going to do. Because I don't even know what I said no more. But in the meantime, I'm getting to a point with that. Why y'all asking about the baptism? I'm sorry, y'all. Next week, Stan got it. All right. So at any rate, we're gonna get back to Matthew 24. I'll tell y'all what I said in a minute. So pick it back up at 27, please.
For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be.
You gonna see him. Go ahead.
For whosoever the carcass, wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagle be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light.
And what else?
And the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with the sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other.
All right, well, now we're about to gather Israel. So here's how it went down. We had the Great Tribulation. Then at the end of the tribulation, you saw the witnesses. They was celebrating because they killed them. It was 3.5 days. Then you had your resurrection. When you had your resurrection, then now the Lord is returning. Just period. That's where we at right now. And we ain't seen no rapture, no nothing. All right. So now we got the return of Christ. Acts chapter 1, verse 6. And here was my statement. Every student has a teacher, and you can't teach if you haven't been taught. That was my statement. So somebody got to teach you something. You know what I'm saying? Like even if you're a teacher, somebody had to. You had to. If you're gonna be the coldest teacher around, you're gonna have to have sat under somebody. I don't care how, under some man. You know, we always versus the man that trusted man. And yes, don't put your faith in man. Absolutely, put your faith in God. Man's still doing it though. Jesus was a man, y'all. He was not walking around here floating through walls when he was doing these. He was kicking up rocks just like anybody else was kicking up rocks. He spit like anybody else spit. You understand what I'm saying? He was a man. Man got to give it to you. Don't, Brother Bluey, this brother. Look, man, they men. That's what everybody ever, it says Elijah was a man of subject to like passions. Meaning he's just like us. He's a man. You're going to have to get it from a man. Men make mistakes sometimes too. Absolutely. But when men are operating with God, their mistakes are very minimal. And most of the time, the Lord allows them to come back and clean up those verbal mistakes. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, though, when all said and done, you can't take my mistake to the maker with you. So when I'm giving you something, you need to go double check me, and then you need to go get your own. That's the real end of the story, the moral of the story. Get your own. Make sure you get your own understanding. But you're going to have to learn it from somebody. Straight up. And it's anything ever provided was learned. Period. Like Adam, who told you was naked. You went and got an education I didn't give you. Everything ever that man possibly knows came from another man, unless you want to talk about Adam and Eve. So at any rate, Acts chapter 1, verse 6. When you get there, go ahead and read that one verse.
When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel?
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, we're going to read more than that. My bad. Take
okay.
it down to verse 10. Read all the way through to 10.
Okay. And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the time or the season, which the Father hath put in his own power. But he shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you. And he shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the utmost part of the earth.
Go ahead.
And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and the cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly towards heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by in white apparel, which also said, He man of Galilee, why stand he gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall come in like manner as he has seen him go into heaven.
Go ahead. I know I said 11, I meant 12.
Then returned they unto Jerusalem from Mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day journey.
Right. So then I reread all that. I just want to show you, look, he was at Mount Olives. That's where he's coming back at. You know what I'm saying? Like he went up into the cloud. Like he's gone now. That's where we got him. He's gone, and the same way he left, he gonna come back. Cause that's what we own right now, and we own the purging after Jesus' return. Okay. So now let's go to Isaiah chapter 11. Because he's saying he's coming back. That's what he told him. He gone, but he's saying he's coming back in the clouds just like before. Just like we saw in Matthew chapter 24. You're going to see the Son of Man coming back. Because the world be trying to act like we gonna be raptured off, sitting up in heaven next to Jesus on his feet, like just sitting there at the feet. That's what I used to think. I used to just think like I was gonna be like I used to imagine this huge throne with a whole bunch of steps. Probably because I was watching Bugs Bunny and them cartoons. But I used to think a whole bunch of steps, and I was gonna sit at the bottom of the steps and just be like chilling, just like looking at the Lord the whole time, and that was kingdom. Yeah, that's why I'm like, man, nah, he coming here. He coming here, y'all. Why do you think he made the earth? Hey, that's what I used to think, man. Hey, but I thought something dumb like that. I'm sure people thought just as dumb, if not dumber.
We all did.
Yeah. So Isaiah, but that's not what it is. He's gonna come back here to this earth, set up his kingdom on this earth. This is very important. When I say it's very important, because we look at TV and we watch government and politics like it matters. But at the end of the day, there will be a government and there will be a set of politics that come into play that will rule and reign forever. So, and that's what people got to understand. Isaiah chapter 11. He's going to change all this. We're going to read verse 10 through 16. When you get there, go ahead.
And in that day shall be a root out of Jesse.
So a man, that's a root from Jesse. David was from Jesse. Go ahead.
Which shall stand for an ensign of the people. And it shall be, and it shall, to it shall the Gentiles see, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth.
Right, so he's saying, like, I'm now, so the Lord coming back, this guy from Judah, he's coming back, he's grabbing Israel from everywhere on the earth. And he's going to bring them back to Jerusalem. But look, this is what people don't know, another mystery. You don't just get to walk into Jerusalem, just like they didn't just get to walk into Jerusalem before. They didn't just get to, matter of fact, they didn't start ruling out of Jerusalem till David. Just to let you know how long it really took for them to just really, David was ruling out of Hebron. But really, at the end of the day, though, they don't just get to go into the promised land, just like we not in the future. We're going to see what's going on. Go ahead, keep reading.
The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim.
So we're going to all be one at that point. Keep reading. We're going to read it all the way through. Keep going.
But they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines towards the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hands upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them.
So look, you got three nations that still existing when the Lord come back. And he's saying, we get Ammon, That's what it's saying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's a lot of mysteries in the Bible. Like because so right here it's saying, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. So this is when the Lord comes. I realize the Philistines ain't the Hamites. So when you ask if they still here, I mean, that's why I said to the west. Because you're going back over into Africa. If you're looking on the map, that's what's west. That's where they at. But keep reading.
And the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongues of the Egyptian sea. And with his mighty wind shall shake his hand over the river, and shall smite in the seven streams, and make men go over dry shod. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria.
So he's saying it's going to be a highway for the remnant of his people. Like this is the introduction to something else in a minute. But he's saying this is going to be a way that you get for the people, for them to get back into Jerusalem. We ain't got no way to get to Jerusalem right now. Anybody want to go to Jerusalem, take a piece of land and try it. It's not going to work. You have no way to do it. But he's saying, well, when it's all said and done in the end, it's going to be a path. That's the road to Jerusalem. Actually, we're going to see what the name of that road is very shortly. What verse are we at?
Still in 16.
All right, go ahead.
Like as it was to Jerusalem in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt.
See how he's comparing it? Like just like it was when he came up out of Egypt, I'm gonna have a way for you to get into the promised land just like that even later. Because he's doing everything the same. Let's go to Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. We're almost done. Deuteronomy 30, we're going to read him verse 1 through 8. And again, so now in the second half, we looking at the gathering of Israel. So before we looked at, really, if you want to know what we looked at first, we looked at the destruction of a nation, Babylon and the Antichrist and Egypt. That's what that is. Now you seeing the gathering of Israel to take us into the promised land. Okay, so it's like the class kind of like divided in two, which the title shows us: place of safety during the tribulation, purging after Jesus returns. That's what the wilderness is for. Deuteronomy chapter 30. Let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass,
yes, sir,
when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee, and shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I commanded thee this day. Thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost part of the heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will the Lord fetch thee. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above all thy fathers.
That's what he's telling our children. He's like, I'm going to bring you back. You're going to get the land that your fathers possessed. Keep reading.
And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and with all thy soul and with all, that thou mayest live.
Verse 6 is another way of saying, I'm going to put them under the rod of the covenant. They're going to learn how to keep the commandments. That's what verse 6 is saying. Keep going.
And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecute thee.
And he going to reverse what didn't happen. Where we was the bottom, now they're going to be the bottom. It don't mean we're going to be sitting around them making them lick our boots. I done seen some Hebrews out here on these streets like, yeah, kiss my Converse or something. Like, you sound like an idiot, man. You didn't even make them shoes. Them shoes say made in Taiwan, and you want somebody to bow down and kiss them. Like, them ain't royalty, and they ain't even leather. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, but you want people to bow down to you like you royalty. Well, like, man, get out of here with that. See, that type of stuff, that's how I be looking at it. When I be seeing stupidity, I just be thinking, what kind of car did you drive up here today? That's what I be like. And when you go home, where do you live? Because surely you got that big mansion on there. Because why you got these? Cause I see that they have these Gentiles out here. Yeah, you gonna bow down to me, kiss my feet, and all. And some of these Gentiles be dumb enough to do it, thinking it's gonna help them get salvation some kind of way. It's not. But the Bible does not tell you to get salvation, kiss feet. It didn't say that. It nowhere. 0. Where we at, bro?
8. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments which I command thee this day.
I think that was all. All right, let's go to Ezekiel now. Ezekiel chapter 20. This is where the purging of the rebels come from. But right now, as far as time is concerned, we at the return of the Lord right now. The Lord is back. We already been to the wilderness. So we got to go to the wilderness again. It got to be for a reason. It's going to give us a reason, though. The scriptures line itself up well. We're going to lead you to Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Hosea, Jeremiah, Isaiah. It's going to be all perfect. Like, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I get it. It's real simple. Because that's what the book is. Ain't nothing supposed to be complicated. I should be able to explain this to Jayla and Nashawn and Micaiah and all my little kids, and they should be able to get this. It's simplicity that's in Christ. So when somebody complicated, then you might want to back up off that. If it's just like, man, it's just so difficult, man. What are you trying to get me to see? Probably ain't nothing to see then. Because all this should be simple. Okay? Ezekiel chapter 20, let's pick this up in verse 33. And keep it that way when you explaining it to people. Don't be trying to make this all complicated. You ain't got to sound smart for nobody. They're going to think you smart already because don't nobody have these conversations with them. So they're going to already think you own one. So bring them the simple stuff that you learn here. Don't be coming with that, the heart is deceitful, desperately wicked. Who can know it? Trust me. That sounds real deep to somebody who ain't never read that. You know what I'm saying? Or many going into the ways of destruction. That Matthew 7. That sound, all that stuff sounds super high tech. You like, man, I know this by heart, right? Because you the Illuminati. That's why. You the illuminated ones. You in the know. Ezekiel chapter 20. Let's pick it up at verse 33. When you get there, go ahead and read.
As I live, save the Lord, God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over this people, rule over you. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out from the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out.
See, this is after the Lord come back. We know that. He's not gathering us from everywhere we were scattered before the Great Tribulation. You don't read that anywhere. This is afterward. Keep going.
And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
Oh, and so he gonna plead with you when you get there, just like he did with us when we was in Egypt. So we're gonna understand what a pleading is shortly. Because he wasn't begging us to do nothing. He was chilling. That's what he was really doing. You ain't want to do it, you was gonna die. Keep going.
Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord God.
Again, that's the real point I want us to understand, that everything that's being done has already been done. Like Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun. These are the points that I really want you to retain. Go ahead, keep going.
And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Yes, sir.
And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me, and I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and he shall know that I am the Lord.
That's good. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 31 now. Jeremiah chapter 31. So this is the plan. He's going to gather us out of all the corners we've been put. He's going to bring us into the bond of the covenant. Just like when he gathered us up out of Egypt before, he brought us under the covenant. The covenant was out Mount Sinai. He gave us the commandments. And we agreed, saying all that you said we'll do. We agreed to it. In Exodus 24. So that's the same thing that's going to happen. The same thing. We're going to leave Egypt and we're going to the wilderness. It's just that simple. Jeremiah chapter 31, and we're going to read from, pick it up at verse 22. When you get there, go ahead.
How long wilt thou go about, O thou backsliding daughter? For the Lord hath created a new thing in the earth. A woman shall compass a man.
She has. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel. As yet they shall use the speech in the land of Judah and in the cities thereof. When I shall bring again the captivity, the Lord bless thee, O habitation of justice and mountain of holiness.
So when he keeps saying bring again the captivity, he's saying like when I'm bringing you out of it. That's what that means, so you know. Go ahead.
And there shall dwell in Judah itself, and it shall, and in all the cities thereof together, husbandmen, and they that go forth with flocks. For I have satiated, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for I have satiated the weary soul, and I have replenished every sorrowful soul.
Man, that's why I can't find you my page that time. And so I thought I had turned back, right? And I turned over too many. So I'm just looking for the words. I'm like, where the heck is he? All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Keep reading.
Upon this I awaked and beheld, and my sleep was sweet unto me. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will sow the house of Israel.
And just so you know, or how you say it, satiated or whatever, however it means satisfied. For I have satisfied the weary soul. I have replenished every sorrowful soul. Upon this I awake and beheld, and my sleep was sweet unto me. Go ahead, 27.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of men and with the seed of beasts.
Go ahead.
And it shall come to pass that like as I watch over them to pluck them up and to break down and to throw down and to destroy and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, saith the Lord. In those days they shall say no more, the father hath eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge.
Keep reading.
But every one shall die for his own iniquity.
Yes, sir.
every man that eateth the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge.
Go ahead.
Behold, the days come,
Yeah.
saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
So at the end of the day, though, he like, I'm still dealing with Judah and Israel. Go ahead.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward part.
So this the covenant. We was reading Ezekiel chapter 20. This the covenant. I'm gonna put the law. Even in the later end, though. You know, people be trying to say, you ain't gotta keep the commandments. Even when the Lord come back, he's still saying, well, I'm gonna put my law, and I'm still dealing with Judah. I'm still dealing, that's the other part. Oh, well, that's Israel stuff. Like, nah, the law, Israel, the Lord then came back, he done gathered the children of Israel, and he's still giving them the commandments of God. Go ahead, what verse?
33. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in the inward part and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Go ahead.
And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity and will remember their sins no more.
Right. So he's like, look, we not gonna be in a situation right now where don't nobody know God and don't nobody know what he's doing. He like, look, I come back, I'm gonna establish it to where, hey, everybody gonna know me. This is that new covenant that we're gonna be under, that I'm gonna make with Israel and with Judah. Because he gonna be on the earth. That's the beauty of it. He gonna be on earth. You gotta know it. Let's go over to Hosea now. Hosea chapter 2. Hosea chapter 2, verse 14. Hosea chapter 2, verse 14. So like I said again, man, the wilderness is serving more than one purpose. It served its purpose initially, way back in the day, for it protected the children of Israel. We was in the wilderness. Our shoes didn't get old. Somebody asked me about that. When we started wearing shoes, I was like, man, we was wearing shoes in the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? Like, we was wearing shoes down in Egypt. Egypt was where we became a nation. We left out of Egypt with everything. Straight up. We walked out of Egypt with earrings, hair weaves, and tennis shoes. Same thing we walking out of Egypt with here. You understand what I'm saying? They made us here. Like, we became the nation that we are even in Egypt today. And you know what's crazy? As much as people love to hate the Gentile, you do realize they gave you your God. You didn't come over here with this. You came over here with Allah. That's the moon God. I'm just saying. Everything got its purpose, and it ain't for you to hate. So anyway, Hosea chapter 2, let's pick it up at verse 14. When we get there, go ahead.
Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak comfortably unto her. And I will give her a vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope. And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the days when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
Like, you see how the Lord is still bringing that to memory? Do you guys know how long that's been now? At this point, basically, we talking 5,000 years out. When the Lord returned, it's 2,000 from Jesus to the coming of the Lord. So it's 2,000 now. And we saying 2,000 years, somewhere around there is when we left Egypt. Before the Jesus got here, and you telling me we still talking about it. That's crazy to me. That just tells you how important what happened down in Egypt, our exodus from Egypt is. And it also just tells you how important Egypt is, period, in itself. Like, Babylon ain't no nation today. Ain't nobody walking around here all belong to the nation of Babylon. You don't see Babylon at the Olympics or something. You know what I'm saying? But you do see Egypt, though, don't you? I mean, I'm just saying, it's almost like God said, let me stamp this boy. We're going to leave this right here. This going to be here from start to finish. Because the show has been. But anyway, what verse are we at?
16.
Go ahead.
And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishai, and shalt call me no more Baal.
Ishai, that means father. Baal means master. So he's saying we're going to call you father, not Lord. Because that's what we don't know. Like he's our Lord, but he's our father, but it's like he's our Lord, he's our master. And he's like, no, we're going to really be a son of God. We're going to call him father. Even the children of Israel, they're going to be able to understand, his ways. Now, all us out here, the ones that's out here that's, family members getting killed and all that, it just get bad where I live. Like, it's just like every single day I just keep seeing it. And it's sad. But we going to overcome this, though. And we're going to be able to look at God and know that that's family. Where we at?
17.
Go ahead.
For I will take away the names of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered in their name. And in that day will I make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and the sword, and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely.
Go ahead.
And I will betroth thee unto me forever.
He's talking to Israel. He said, I'm going to marry you forever, Israel. Now, all this started, therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness. But remember, in Ezekiel, it said that in the wilderness, I'm going to make a covenant with her. And we understand, especially us men should understand, that the covenant is us becoming one. The agreement of us becoming one. It's the marriage. And so he's saying, like, look, I'm doing this again. In verse 19, what he say? Go ahead.
And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness, and in judgment, and in loving kindness, and in mercy. And I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord.
That's good. Let's go to Jeremiah 33. We ain't cutting none of this. We ain't got long either. We ain't cutting none of it. Jeremiah 33. We need all this because we got to prove. That's the thing. We have got to learn to prove stuff. You know what I mean? And so we proving this because I understand that a lot of people didn't comprehend prior to today, and maybe not us in this room, that the wilderness served more than one purpose. It served the same purpose as Goshen served us, as well as it's going to serve the same purpose as at a different time afterwards. So before the Lord come back, the wilderness serves as Goshen. After the Lord returns, the wilderness serves as the same type wilderness that it was used before when we were coming into a covenant with the Lord. It's the same wilderness though. Okay? And he said he's going to have a highway out of there. We read that once. We're going to get that second witness on it. Another scripture after this, Jeremiah. Go ahead. Jeremiah 33, let's pick it up at verse 4. 4 through 9, and then we're going to jump to 14. Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, concerning the houses of this city, and concerning the houses of the king of Judah, which are thrown down by the mounts and by the sword. They come to fight with the Chaldeans, but it is filled with the dead bodies of men, whom I have slain in mine anger and in my fury, and for all whose wickedness I have hid my face from this city. Behold, I will bring it health and cure, and I will cure them, and I will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth.
Like you see what he's saying? I'm gonna cure them. I'm gonna reveal to them the abundance of peace and truth. Go ahead.
And I will cause the captivity of Judah and the captivity of Israel to return, and I will build them as the first. And I will cleanse them from all their iniquity, whereby they have sinned against me, and I will pardon all their iniquities, whereby they have sinned, and whereby they have transgressed against me. And it shall be to me. Let's get down to verse 14. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will perform that good thing which I have promised unto the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days, at that time, will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land.
Go ahead.
In those days shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely.
Yeah.
And this is the name wherein she shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel.
When he said he should never want, he said lack. Like David gonna always keep somebody on the throne. That's what he's telling you. Go ahead.
Neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me to offer burnt offerings, and to kindle meat offerings, and to sacrifice continually.
He's saying, and Levi ain't gonna want nobody else standing before me to do this either. Because, like, when we split up, when the Israel, the northern tribe and the southern tribe split up, the first thing they did was like, we gonna have some new priests in here. They was like, nah, Israel will never again decide to have somebody else be the priest. It's gonna always, this is all once the Lord comes back. See, again, I want us to understand when the Lord comes back, he is setting up a government with flesh and blood people. Your grandma and your cousins and them. That's how I keep saying it like that because I want you to get a visual of who we talking about. People that you may even very well know. It's not like, oh yeah, 6 generations from now. Like, nah, your neighbor and them. Everybody not getting up at the first resurrection. But he gonna gather all Israel. Did we finish verse 20? Did we finish? How far did we go down?
We supposed to be at 19.
19? Okay, yeah, finish that.
And the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah, saying,
That's good. Let's go to Isaiah 35. We have to finish that. Isaiah 35. This is again where we're going to see the wilderness. This is where you're going to see the wilderness, and you're going to see the highway there. He's going to explain the wilderness to you, and this is the one that most people have misplaced. They put this wilderness with the first wilderness. Like, no. This is the second wilderness. I guess I had this conversation twice this week now that I think about it. But I remember both conversations. Isaiah 35. And it's okay. If you don't get it, you listening online, you watching it, and you hear you guys more questions after class. You watching online, and you don't get it, it's okay. It's okay not to get everything that we tell you up here. As a matter of fact, most of the time you think you got it and you really don't. So, but what you do with it is if you ask, what happened to the days of getting help? You know what I'm saying? He asked this brother right here, well, what did you think about what JD said when he said this scripture right here? Now, y'all building on it. Or, go back to another teacher. So, brother such and such said, or you gotta say brother such, what does this mean? You know what I'm saying? And you keep building on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't see it like that. Like I said, when I first thought about the Godhead, when they told me in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God, I thought that Jesus started off as a word, W-O-R-D, like as if God spoke, and then that like came out of God's mouth. That's what I thought. I was wrong in thinking that. You understand what I'm saying? It's okay. And I was sure it made all the sense to me. In the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. It just made all the sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the Word, so it means he said something, he just existed. Like that was powerful enough. It was just wrong. You know what I'm saying? I learned later, he's called the Word because this is the only person we ever heard from. Oh, duh, I never thought of that until somebody told me better. I thought something dumber. So what I'm saying is sometimes we can be wrong, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Just because you don't get it don't mean you right either. If you sit here and listen to me, I don't mean that. But how you know you right? Isaiah 35, let's pick it up at verse 1. When you get there, go ahead.
The wilderness and the solitary place shall be glad for them.
So it's called the wilderness and the solitary place because that's what it's called anyway. It's the wilderness. They're going to be glad for us, though. Go ahead.
And the desert shall rejoice and blossom as a rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it, and the excellency of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord, and the excellency of our God.
So I guess if you were to geographically go check out this land, Moab and Ammon and they little region over there, it must be where that desert gets started at over there. Because like if you look on the map, Jerusalem and all that, they sit right by the water in the Mediterranean. So they got some fertile land. But as you start going back, like if you're looking on the map, you start going back I guess it would be east if you're looking at the map. Like, that's desert land. You know what I'm saying? saying? So I guess that's where Moab and them at. Because he was like, yo, it will blossom abundantly and rejoice as if there ain't nothing there right now. But regardless, though, verse 2, go ahead.
Strengthen he the weak hands, and confirm the feeble knees. Say to them that are of a fearful heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, even God with a recompense. He will come and save you.
Go ahead.
Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf shall be unstopped.
That's because he out there in the wilderness going to open up them eyes so we can see, ears so we can hear. Go ahead.
Then shall the lame man leap as a hart, and the tongue of the dumb sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert.
Right, like when we get in the wilderness the second time, like we talking miracles, we talking healing. We ain't just talking about being in the place of safety. We talking about the lame gonna walk. Like it's saying that's not like a metaphor or something. It's for real, because Jesus gonna be there. It's gonna be plenty of healing. Keep reading.
And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water. In the habitation of dragons, which where each lay shall be grass and reeds and rushes, and a highway shall be there.
So we saw something else about a highway before. This is a road, a pathway, a highway. That's what they call. Like they was called highways before we built concrete freeways. You understand? Like highways is how you get from one real place to another. Okay, keep reading.
And a way, and it shall be
So
called.
it's called a highway or a way, either way you look at it. Go ahead.
And it shall be called the way of holiness.
So right, so it's gonna be, instead of being called I-95, it's gonna be the way of holiness highway. Like from here, that's how you get to the way of holiness. Through this highway right here. Go ahead.
The unclean shall not pass over.
Right, because Jesus gonna be in Jerusalem. Unclean people can't be in Jerusalem with Jesus. So that's why you gotta make this stop to the wilderness first. That's why this is your pathway to Jerusalem for those of us. Now, like I said, us, we hoping to be in that first resurrection. So we hoping to be the administrators of the office. But as far as our cousins and them, who may not get that first resurrection, but the Lord gathers them and bring them back, he brings them to the wilderness. Once they get straight in the wilderness and they get under that covenant, then they get to walk past that highway. They can walk right on through into Jerusalem. So he said, and the highway should be there in a way, and it should be called the way of holiness. The unclean should not pass over it. Go ahead.
But it shall be for those, the wayfaring men, though fools shall not err therein.
He said it's gonna be for those, not the wayfaring moves, man. He might be a fool. He ain't gonna anybody gonna make a mistake and go on here. That's why I say err therein. Keep reading.
No lion shall be there.
You ain't got to worry about animals when you we walking. We ain't driving no cars, riding no buses. We walking from the wilderness to Jerusalem. If you go back and look on your maps, you'll see Jerusalem right on the other side of the river. That ain't nothing to walk. Go ahead.
Nor any ravenous beast shall go up thereon.
Why?
It shall not be found there. But the redeemed, oh man, what's going on? But the redeemed shall walk there.
Right, that's the path for the redeemed to walk. Redeemed from what? Redeemed from Egypt. Keep reading.
And the ransom of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with songs, everlasting joy upon their heads. And they shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away.
And that highway gonna be geek like the Yellow Brick Road or something. There's gonna be all kind of partying going on till you get there. Because everybody that's on that pathway, they get into the kingdom. Like literally, physically, they're walking into the kingdom. It's gonna be singing, it's gonna be jamming, everything. Let's go over here to let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37. We got two more after this. Ezekiel 37. Ezekiel chapter 37. And we're gonna pick them up at verse 20. Ezekiel 37 and verse 20. Ezekiel 37 and verse 20. When you get there, take off.
And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before thine eyes. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and I will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land.
Go ahead.
And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountain of Israel, and one king shall be their king to them all.
Right,
and
we had two kings at one point. He's like, nah, ours is going to be one. That's how it's supposed to be. Go ahead.
they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms
And the reason
anymore
I'm
at
really
all.
saying that is because that's what has happened at this exact moment. Israel ain't even with Judah no more at this exact moment. Right now, you can say, y'all might be like, well, we still divided as a nation. We ain't even a nation right now. Like, you ain't Judah or Israel. Like, you're not. Sorry. You're just not. Now, you're an Israelite by birth, absolutely, for those that are. But as far as being a nation, you don't even exist. So why is we even having that part of the conversation? But go ahead, keep reading.
Neither shall they defile themselves anymore with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling place,
Yes, sir.
wherein they have sinned,
Mm-hmm.
and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God.
So he said he's gonna cleanse us, and he gonna be our, he gonna be our God. We're gonna be his people. What next?
And David my servant shall be their king, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt. And they shall dwell therein, even they, and their children, and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever.
Go ahead.
Moreover, I will make covenant of peace with them.
We was talking about getting back under the bond of the covenant in Ezekiel earlier. This is still the same thing. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them, as opposed to the covenant that has been made with them. It should be an everlasting covenant with them. Go ahead.
And I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Keep reading.
And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore.
Evermore. Zechariah chapter 14, and that's, we got one more. Zechariah chapter 14. We have one more after this. Zechariah chapter 14. I'm gonna tell y'all what this is. This is really where I was supposed to end, and then what happens is you get to thinking about your lesson before you done, and then you add another scripture. That's what Isaiah comes from. So this is the reason why I just say this one scripture, this one verse. So go ahead.
And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord,
Right.
and his name one.
Right. So this is the time period that we in when the Lord come back, and we're gonna be one, and that's how it's gonna be. Isaiah chapter 2. Let's look at one more thing about this kingdom. His name gonna be one. You know how people be like, oh, well, his name should be this, that, and the other. Man, when the Lord come back, he bringing a pure language. Like, I don't even know what make y'all think God want to come back and speak English. I don't think he want to come back and speak Hebrew with y'all. Like, oh yeah, that's supposed to be the language. Man, you know how many Hebrews we done had already? We done been, this like the fourth Hebrew, straight up. We done had two Hebrews. We got the Hebrew we on right now. It's called Yiddish. That's what it called. Then we had another Hebrew 200 years ago that they was using, like in the 1800s. That's all. They don't even use that same Hebrew now. Just 200 years. Like they speak it different now. So I'm just saying, and you know why the Hebrew be changing? Because it ain't theirs. It's that simple. It's not theirs. The Hebrew be changing because the Hebrews don't have it to speak it. You know what I mean? Like, otherwise, Hebrew, if it was gonna ever be what it was, needs to be spoken by the people who spoke it when it was there, and they still speaking it to this day. You see what I'm saying? Like, otherwise, then how can you have Hebrew? You understand what I'm saying? It's like okay, so the Edomite got it. Oh, they took the Hebrew language, and no, they didn't just take the Hebrew language. They did something else with that. That's not how we said those words. You know what I'm saying? That stuff sounds Aramaic to me. That don't sound Aramaic. Those are two different forms of linguistics. They're not the same. That's what I'm getting at. So it's like, what make y'all think we're gonna be saying the Hebrew we speak today? Like, y'all sure? Y'all really think that's it? And then you know what's crazy? I be reading the Bible and I ain't too sure how different the name sounded anyway. Cause when he was like Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is my God, why have forsaken me? They was like, it sounded like he called for Elijah. Now, Eli, lama sabachthani, and Elijah from a dead man, 5, 10 yards away, sound kind of similar to me. So I'm just saying, so why the names got to be so wrong? I just wonder. Y'all act like the J sound didn't exist because the letter J wasn't there. That's dumb. That's the same thing as saying whatever sound the CH making, if all of a sudden we create a new letter for that, y'all gonna say, oh, well, back in the 2000s, that letter didn't exist, so that sound didn't exist. That's stupid. That's what that is. So anyway, let's wrap this up. Isaiah chapter 2, pick him up in verse 1 through 7. When you get here, take off.
The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last day that the mountain of the Lord's house, shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all the nations shall flow unto it.
Go ahead.
And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of God, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the Lord, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come ye, and let us walk in the light of the Lord.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like, oh, house of Jacob.
I like that.
Man, right? Yeah, like, come let us walk. Because we've been living in darkness, man. That's what we've been like. This is darkness. So everything about us is darkness. And it's crazy because you think we in the light. You know what I'm saying? As a nation, you think we've had some opportunity. Nah, man. It's been all bad. Let's finish this up. 6 and 7. When you get there, go ahead.
Therefore, thou hast forsaken thy people, the house of Jacob, because they've been replenished from the east, and are soothsayers like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the children of strangers. Their land also is filled of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasure. Their land is also filled with horses, neither is there any end of their chariots.
That's good. So, look, what that was, again, we were just trying to look at, after the Lord come back and trying to prove that second time you go to the wilderness, it's about coming under the bond of the covenant. The first time you go to the wilderness, it's about being protected from the Lord. Protected from the wrath of the Antichrist and the wrath of God that's taking place outside during the Great Tribulation. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, I hope we got some understanding in Jesus' name. So,